Hey, what's going on, everyone? Greg here, and I got a surprise for you today. And oh, it's kind of slightly in frame already. It's the Mac Studio. You read the title, you know what this video is about, and you know that I have probably been waiting for this computer for a very long time, or something like this computer, because I really feel like Apple hasn't made a mid-size kind of pro desktop in a very long time. And I think I can kind of almost trace this back to the days of the G4 Cube, where you had the big Pro desktop and then this smaller option to go along with it. We're not counting the trash can Mac Pro. That was a complete replacement for the Mac Pro at the time. So it is kind of weird to live in a world where we now have a mid-sized desktop from Apple again, one that promises some pretty competent power, and one that is available without a 27-inch iMac with it. Like, Apple got rid of the iMac and brought along a mid-sized desktop. I never thought I would see them do that, but for this video, I really wanted to check out the base model of the Mac Studio for you, because at $2,000 with that M1 Max chip with 32 gigabytes of memory, a 512 gigabyte solid-state drive, and a lot of ports and all that good stuff, I really feel like this $2,000 desktop going into this
Well,
video
that's not boding well for the day if I already have a
that
disconnection.
most people should buy. That's going to deliver the best value.
So we're actually just warming up before we do the Alp.
Mac Studio. Let's see how it performs.
I did the Alp on Wednesday.
I want to give you some of my first impressions with this device.
My trainer actually disconnected at,
didn't do any sort of editing magic.
what was it, stage 1? Or turn corner 1 to the final corner. So I didn't actually get a time to the top.
You know, at the end of the day, this is just.
Although I got PRs most of the way up.
It's just kind of like a square.
So the goal is sub 60.
Can't really interact with it too much.
Hopefully I stay paired the whole time.
Studio display, which I also got.
Just watch some YouTube videos while we do it. The goal is to warm up the whole way to the Alp.
I'm actually going to do a dedicated video on this.
Nothing hard until the Alp actually
but for now, let's focus on
starts.
So obviously, the first thing I love to load up
It's early too, so I need lots of warm up.
Obviously, is a cross
like 640.
Kind of get a good idea on how the CPU inside of this is going to perform. Just looking at the numbers. Obviously, benchmarks for all these are just benchmarks, so they might not be indicative of real-world performance, but I always think they usually give you a pretty good indication of how this will perform against.
My trip up the Alp starts in
on our new
7.
Studio with the base model
So
M1
we'll just
Max
warm
chip.
up.
You can see
So
we're
then,
getting a single-core score of
see how we're doing.
185 and a multi-core score of 12,635. And no big shockers there, right? This is the same M1 Max chip that you can get inside of the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro, and hey, it has the same 10-core CPU. So there's really nothing shocking here. The only difference between this Mac Studio and maybe some of the other M1 Max configurations you can get is that this is the base model. So it does have a binned chip, but it doesn't lose out on CPU power, it loses out on GPU power. But before we go on to the GPU, let's test out another CPU benchmark, which would be Cinebench. Now, Cinebench is a little bit more intensive than Geekbench. Now, while I probably expect around the same score as what we would get on a MacBook Pro, the thing here is that Cinebench takes a longer time to complete. It runs for about 10 minutes, and it's kind of stressing that CPU the whole time. So this might actually be a good test to see if there is any thermal improvements with this cooling system on a full-size desktop, and if that actually gives any benefits to the M1 Max chip inside of a desktop machine, or if there's any sort of throttling going on. And as we run Cinebench, you can see that we finish with a score of 12,344. And if you're hoping for a big performance increase in CPU power over the MacBook Pro because of better thermals, you're not going to find it here, because the MacBook Pro basically got the same score at 12,354. But I think that's just kind of a testament to Apple Silicon. The fact that we can put the M1 Max chip inside of a thinner MacBook Pro and then also put it inside of relatively small desktop still, but still a mid-sized machine, and kind of see that they perform the same. So thermal issues on this are probably going to be non-existent for the Max chip at least. And honestly, while running that Cinebench benchmark, ramping up that CPU, I did not hear the fan spin up on this one, so that is obviously a good sign. We are long past the days of Intel Macs where you would load up that application and it would just sound like a jet engine screaming across your table or desk, whatever you use for your Mac. All right, next I just wanted to do a quick GPU benchmark, this time using GFX Bench, going to do the Aztec Ruins on-screen and off-screen. And as you can see as we run through this benchmark, on the on-screen, you are getting 3,483 frames or 54 frames per second. And then if you run that test off-screen, you're getting 15,548 frames, or an average of 241 frames per second. And this seems kind of accurate, especially for the bin chip that is in the model on the base model Mac Studio, which is a 24-core GPU. Obviously, if you spend a little bit more money, I think it's like a $200 add-on, you can get the chip that has no issues with it, basically, and that would give you a 32-core GPU. And finally, I just wanted to do a disk speed test, because one of the things that I found out when I was reviewing my MacBook Pro is that if you got the lower configuration SSDs on these machines, they were actually slower than that advertised, I think it was like 7 gigabytes per second on the read and write speed for the 4 terabyte and 8 terabyte drive. So this is a 512 gigabyte drive. It's the base model, and running the disk speed test, we can see that it's basically the same as the MacBook Pro. If you're getting one of these lower storage Mac Studios, below 4 terabytes, it is going to be at a slower speed. So they're still really fast SSDs, right? They're not giving you that full 7 gigabits on the read and write, but you are getting 5,440 on the read and 4,600 around there in the right speed. So these are still really fast SSDs, but if you want the fastest SSD or you just want more storage, honestly, you're gonna have to spend a pretty penny to upgrade to the 4 or 8 terabyte model. All right, and finally, I'm a video editor, so I wanna just see what the export times are on this Mac Studio. So for the first test, I loaded up just a very simple 10-minute clip with just some light color grading kind of stuff, no other graphics or any layers or anything special like that. Just kind of want to give you a very simple test. That's 10 minutes of 4K footage, and we're exporting that to H.264 with background rendering turned off, and the Mac Studio with the base model M1 Max chip completed that in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Next, I did the same test, this time using ProRes, and that finished even faster at 1 minute and 3 seconds. And this is basically, again, very similar to what I saw on my M1 Max model of the MacBook Pro. The M1 Max chip has a dedicated video encoder for this type of footage, especially for ProRes. It really just burns through that and exports it super, super fast. So, you know, we're seeing the same things, but I think that's a good thing because what we're seeing here is just, honestly, I think a pretty good value at first glance. Again, this is the base model, and how I would compare this right now on the market is if you were looking at, say, an entry-level 14-inch MacBook Pro. Well, if you're getting that model for $2,000, you're getting a
calorie-wise, I've got some Tailwind in a bottle, one bottle. I've got a Nature's Bakery Fig Bar. Just had a little bit of light breakfast. That should have lots of calories for,
and then to get that same
that'll be under 2 hour effort, I think.
Listen, it's expensive, right?
To get to the top of the Alp,
that's not expensive, but if you
that'll be under 2 hours.
spending a lot of money on like the
Still be a longer effort, but it shouldn't
value
be tons of
perspective,
calories
already hooked this up to something
for that effort.
Getting more performance out of something like the base model MacBook Pro, and in a way you're saving money because you don't have to spend the extra $800 to upgrade to the same components as the MacBook Pro. So overall, my first impressions of the Mac Studio are super positive. Obviously, this isn't the most powerful model with the M1 Ultra chip. I am getting a M1 Ultra Mac Studio later, but first impressions of this Mac Studio overall, I knew what to kind of expect with the M1 Max chip with the performance, and I'm satisfied with that here. But just about the device itself, what can you really say about a desktop computer? There's nothing to interact with here, right? Well, in a way, there kind of is, because one of the things, even with my short time using this Mac Studio, I really like some of the design elements that Apple implemented here. I like having the ports on the front. Having access to 2 USB-C ports is super helpful. When I was setting up the computer, I was very easily able to plug in my keyboard and my trackpad, get that hooked up very simply. And then the SD card slot, not having it on the back of the machine like I used to have with some of my desktop iMacs, just makes interacting with that, putting it in, taking it out for footage, very simple, very easy. I can see why people like having ports in the front instead of all the way on the back. But hey, if you flip this thing over on the back, you are greeted with a really, really nice selection of ports too. So 4 Thunderbolt ports, which is great. That's the most ever on any Apple Silicon Mac yet. You get 10 gigabit Ethernet included on every model, which is just going to make sure that you get like super fast internet if you can take advantage of it, or probably for most people attaching it to something like a NAS for storage. You also get 2 USB-A ports. Crazy, right? Apple's releasing a brand new computer design in 2022, and they didn't ditch USB-A because I guess they found that important on a Pro desktop machine. Then, of course, you have HDMI, very great for hooking up to TVs or an existing HDMI monitor. And then the headphone jack, which is supposed to be like a high-impedance headphone jack, whatever. So is the base model Mac Studio worth it? Well, so far, at least with my short time with it, I think it is. Also, briefly, because I did mention it in the beginning, obviously I'm using this along with the Studio Display, going to do a dedicated video on that as well. But I just will say in this quick little segment here, I really like the 5K Studio Display. I know people are upset about the $1,600 price point, and I saw like people recommending that maybe you go ahead and get an LG Ultrafine 5K monitor instead. I'm gonna say those people are dead wrong. Dead wrong. Do not listen to those people. This is why you come to Greg's Gadgets to get the better reviews out there, because even though the LG Ultrafine 5K might deliver similar or even the same picture quality, it is just losing out in some things. Like the speakers inside of this Studio Display are amazing. They sound noticeably better than what is in the LG Ultrafine 5K. That, like, put that on the desk, get rid of your external speakers, let that thing surround you. It is impressive how good the speakers sound for inbuilt monitor speakers. And just the display looks super nice, very great design on it. And you can tell, like, with my initial impressions of the display, I've just been waiting for Apple to make a display for so long. But I'll cover that more in a fully dedicated video. So if you want to see that video when it's up, it's probably up here right now. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to see even more tests and a full review on this Mac Studio, again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.
I'd like to do better some video timestamps today, so you can actually see it later.
Studio is finally here. I have been waiting for this
Jump to the proper spots.
Work on a YouTube video. I'm just shooting this on my iPhone because I want it raw. I want my initial impressions here in the raw. So excited! Oh my god, look at this thing. How do you even open this? The engineering on this box is immaculate. Oh, look at that! It's the Mac Studio. Oh yeah, that's a big Mac.
Look at that. There is a port. This thing is upgradable. Let's break some Mac Studios. Just kidding. I really hope we don't break these. But MKBHD said that there is no way to take these apart to clean out the fans. So challenge accepted. Personally, I really want to see how Apple pulled off, having so much performance in such a small package and getting it cool. And with that, the base M1 Max models, they actually come in at 2 pounds lighter, which is a massive difference because they have a different cooling solution, possibly in design and definitely in materials. Now, first impressions, guys, this packaging is amazing. Look at this cloth little strap here, the handle, and this thing is so dang heavy. Man, it is shocking. It's pretty small, but the weight of it is just so dense with parts. We have this recycled kind of cloth material. Let's open this thing up. Man, I love how Apple has this nice presentation and packaging. You're spending a lot of money, but they make you feel better about it. All right, look at this bad boy. Look at all of those ports on the backside with this huge exhaust. And then at the bottom, we have the inlets. And Apple said that they changed the angle of the over 2,000 holes or so the air spins when it comes in. It is incredible. And the crazy thing is, we actually bought 3 of these Mac Studios and multiple displays and other accessories, spent over $17,000 to provide the very best Mac Studio and Studio Display coverage on the internet. So if you guys want to see how they compare to each other, which upgrades are worth it, the thermals, the wattages, frequencies, if there's any throttling, how much the RAM matters, any of those questions, and how they compare to Apple's other Macs, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you guys appreciate it and help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers. With that said, let's take this thing apart. Now, Vadim and I spent a ton of time yesterday trying to figure out the best way to open this up because there are no visible screws, fasteners, anything to be able to lift it up. So we did notice online that it seems like there might be some screws underneath this rubber, but also some of these ports back here go all the way through, like this power cord port. It won't allow the bottom just slip out along with these USB Type-Cs. So I think we're gonna have to figure that out. So the first thing we're gonna do is take off this rubber ring. So for that, we're gonna pull out our iFixit kit. Not sponsored by iFixit, but iFixit, please reach out. We keep repping your guys' awesome tools. We'd love to get sponsored with you. Let's go ahead and grab a spudger here, something that's plastic so it won't damage it. It was hard to find a point to stick it in, but I got it here right at this edge. And I'm gonna just slowly try to get it to go unglued. And I just felt something like a little dip in there, possibly for a screw. At least that's what we're hoping for. This is definitely glued down nicely or taped down.
Yep.
All right. Woo! Wow, okay, now what is this? What is that? It looks like Braille. Hopefully it's not like a secret magnetic key that you have to put in there, but we see the screws. So let's go ahead and find the right little bit to fit. Guys, if you guys do anything techie at all, you should buy one of these kits. We'll leave an affiliate link down below. They are super high quality. That one was too big, so it looks like a T3 bit. All right, wow, Apple got these really, really tight. Dang.
I have the exact same kit. It's great. Use it for tons of stuff. Computers, and then also even for kids' toys, so put them together, take them apart. It's great.
Shirts that Vadim designed. This is a nice, subtle design. I don't know if you guys see the details all around. This is the M1 Ultra chip package, so it looks really cool here. Go ahead and check out the link if you want to see the full details, and we will give you 20% off for now if you use the coupon code M1 Ultra at checkout. Thank you guys for supporting our efforts. All right, we got the last screw here, guys. I'm so excited, but we might have some more challenges because of these Thunderbolt ports. It looks like they are blocking it from dropping, but let's go ahead and see. All right. Woo, okay. Well, I guess there's more to unscrew. That was easier than I thought. Wow, so I thought the whole shell would just come off, possibly maybe at an angle. But it looks like this is a nice solid piece of aluminum with these little pads. That's gonna make sure there's no vibration. So very cool, no flex like at all there. And here we have, all right, this is what we were finding before.
Yep.
Online, these little blocks of aluminum, well, there's actually 3 of them.
Oh, yep, they are antennas. These things right here.
You were right, Vadim. It looks like those are the antennas, and the bottom of this, and this outside edge is actually, looks like plastic, just like on the iPhones and iPads, to allow that signal to come through. So very cool. Now we also see the tiny little speaker right over there, and then that just fires what? I guess down through the little ports on the bottom, the air intakes. So it looks like the next step is to unconnect this whole top portion, which is the power supply, and then we're gonna have to release this solid aluminum frame to get the actual ports to pop out before we have full access. So this is built very well. I thought a lot of this would be plastic, but no, it's all aluminum. All right, we have those undone, but it's not coming off. So we have another screw here. Vadim, look at that. Look at that. There is a port. This thing is upgradable. Okay, I don't know if I can, here, look over here, look from the angle. I was gonna unscrew that.
Oh my goodness, is that what I think it is?
What is that? So, obviously the RAM's not upgradable, it's on the SoC. That looks like you can put an SSD into it. And look, you can probably do that without even taking it apart. You pop it in, turn it, slide it in, and it's literally, right from here, just screw that down, and you can upgrade your SSD. So it's not soldered on. Looks like we might have another one on this side right here. Look at that, I'm guessing it's the same thing.
Yep,
So if you didn't spring for a bunch of SSD storage, you didn't spend the money, later, you should be able to plug that in just like you can with their Mac Pro. That is awesome. All right, let's get this power supply unconnected. That's probably how it gets power to the motherboard. And bam, it looks like it does lift up now. We have a couple cables here. All right, here is one of them. And then this one here is the one that actually connects to where your cable plugs into the wall. Nice and easy to remove it, but be careful. Do not touch any of this exposed stuff. You can get shocked. Man, this is a lot more complex than I expected. The layering, we have antenna bands and cables going all around the outside, different shields, and it looks like even the fan assembly is mounted to the outer case. This bottom piece looks like it's just like a shield to protect the motherboard from the power supply, and it's just suspended in the air. So I think the next thing I gotta do is to unscrew this aluminum frame to be able to access the ports and unconnect those. All right, wow, this whole thing just lifts up. So that's literally for the bottom cover and the power supply, all aluminum, no flex. Man, this is some high quality stuff. Look at that, dude, Vadim, is that the M1 Ultra chip right there? On the bottom of it, look, you got the heat pipes wrapping around from there. You have this thing that holds it, and the screws here literally just to lift it up. So what is this on the outside then? Some controllers, or should that be like RAM? I thought the RAM's inside here. You know what? Let's just take the stickers off. This is Angelica's Mac Studio that she's gonna be editing our videos on. So why not? Let's pull this off. All right, so that looks like it's some kind of power controller, right? Looks like the same thing under this one, and it looks like something else under here. I have no idea. There's more of these chips over here. So it looks like that doesn't matter. Everything is underneath this heat pipe and cooler, which is actually nice because with Apple's new Apple Silicon chips, your RAM is cooled down as well, not only the CPU and GPU chips. You know what? This connector actually looks like the same ones on my Mac Pro. So let me go grab that SSD, and we'll see if it fits. All right, guys, so yeah, it's not gonna fit. Look at this thing. This thing is big and a lot slower than the built-in one to the Mac Studio, but let me see if the pins line up. All right, looks like, let me see, they look like they maybe line up. Nope, they're off a little bit. This section right here is shorter. Apple said that the Mac Studio is not user accessible, just like they talked about with the MacBook Pro. Most people thought it means it's just soldered in, but that also gives us a clue that it could be upgraded. It's just not by the user. You're gonna have to take it into Apple, just like you have to do with the iMac Pro, to get things like your RAM upgraded. So that gives us lots of hope. And of course, OWC could come out and make upgrade kits for it, just like they do for a ton of Mac stuff. So that is gonna be awesome. But next, we're gonna start unscrewing.
I'll hold it right to the end before I join, so I get the maximum mileage here.
Mess something up.
So I wonder if I could really upgrade the SSD storage in there.
The USB-C ports on the front.
Be interesting.
It's literally taped on, and they don't want you to remove it, but we have to. Sorry, Angelica, your Mac Studio is getting a surgery done right now. All right. Wow, that was easy right there. What if I just want to put it into the other slot so it's not in the way of those ports? You know, just plug the sucker in. Bam, tighten it down. It'd be cool to see if it actually would start up and not have any issues. It shouldn't. You know, they designed these to be able to add SSDs. Very cool. The USB-C port holder is done, and now let's remove this antenna because we're gonna need to access the screw below it. All right, nice and easy. That's a massive antenna. Let's lay this down.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a Bluetooth problem.
No Bluetooth problems here. Apple made sure of that. Let's finish off with these antennas, and then I'm going to try to attempt to just remove these 4 outside screws that hold down the fan assembly and see if we just lift it up without having to remove all of these ports. I'm really not looking forward to putting this sucker back together before we can start benchmarking, man. So long, Ethernet port. We got this bad boy out. All right, let's try this again. Can we clear it? Nope, we can't clear it. So now I'm getting rid of everything. Every single thing, including the speaker now, has to come off just to access more screws. This is insane. It looks like we got a little battery underneath there just to make sure all your stuff is saved if you power it off. Apple actually made a little enclosure to make it sound better instead of just having it be free air, which is appreciated. Apple cares. All right, and we got our legacy ports out of there. And now for the culprit, the one thing that held everything together that you have to remove everything for, the power jack. Now for the front USB-C, man, these are some rigid cables. I've got to say, no Windows manufacturer would ever do this. All these little screws and cables, why not just have the ports not be as flush and just have one piece that slides in? Well, Apple cares, I guess, make it a really solid system. And we also now know that if at any time your little USB-C connector goes out or HDMI or anything, you can fix it yourself. It's not that difficult. All right, guys, my worst nightmare has come true. The last ports that I was trying to keep in here without all these screws, they're all individuals, have to come out. You literally have to disassemble everything to get this out. All right, guys, the second moment of truth. Man, if you guys appreciate all of this and the effort having to put this back together afterwards, please buy a shirt. All right, guys, looks like it has to go front forward first, which makes sense. Oh, man, this is where all the weight is. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So it looks like the logo is not used for antennas like they've done in the past. All of those are at the bottom of the system, so probably don't put it on a metal desk or anything like that. And here we have the computer. We got those dual fans. We have this section right here that actually curves and seals towards the back of the case. In Apple's renderings, they showed it having a gap, which I thought was weird, but it actually is longer, super tight fitting in there. The fins here are super, super close together. There's not a lot of room there, and it's crazy how front heavy this is. The backside barely weighs anything where we have these dual fans. The front is most of the weight.
Copper.
It's all copper, yeah, it's coated though. And it's also crazy how small this motherboard is, super thin. This is the whole computer here, and the chip is massive compared to other chips, so the CPU and graphics. We also just have only 2 heat pipes coming up here to the cooler, as you guys can see, and they just connect right here. They don't spread out. It's right here in the center, which is also interesting, but I guess we'll see how the thermals go when we actually plug it in and test it out. All right, guys, we have to keep going. Let's get this cooler
Starting to feel warmed up. Like I said, the whole goal is to warm up all the way to the bottom.
Has 4 chips chips connected. Probably the
No
M2
big hard
Ultra or
efforts,
M2 Ultra
except
Duo
for
or M2
one-off
Extreme
style
Duo.
efforts
But let's see if we have dual cooling. So we're
until we
gonna
get to the bottom of the Alp.
where our little heat pipes get connected. Bam, right there. We know we have
So we're
thermal
gonna
links
eat. It'll
there.
be at the
Each
bottom
one
of the
will be
Alp,
soldered on.
before the
All right,
bottom of
let's
the
flip
Alp,
over now and get these
as we come
fans
into it.
unscrewed. And let's pop this thing off. Wow, okay, that was easy. Look at that in here.
That is a lot of space for air.
And look at that. Look at all these screws holding one antenna cable all the way just so I can plug in on the other side for this. I'm so glad I didn't try to get that removed. I'm gonna leave that there. We have all these fins. I saw the screws, I thought it might be holding it to the motherboard, but no. So it's only these top screws here, probably these 4. So it looks like it's still not coming off. And this thing that holds down the M1 Ultra chip, it also goes all the way through the motherboard and it's connected to the
My
board on the
plan
other
for
side,
going
which
up the Alp
makes sense.
is to hold like
Dang, I would
3.2
not recommend
watts
doing this, and there's no way that I'm going
the
to
whole way,
take
really.
apart
We're at
another one.
3.2.
I'm just dreading putting this back
In the
together.
last 2
All
corners,
right.
try and really give it.
Cut these off. I can't believe it took so much of this apart.
So
Whoa!
we shall see. First time I went up the Alp was
What's
like
crazy is that it looks like this
really
top
hard.
plate, it is literally
I
screwed
don't remember what I
into the
hit,
chip or
but
into the motherboard,
2.7 watts per
because that is
kilogram was an
held
effort.
together.
Wednesday when I did it, I held 3.7 most of the way, and it was no problem.
There you go.
So
The M1, no, this
we'll
is crazy.
see.
The M1 Ultra
Gonna go a little
is
bit harder
literally
today.
cooled to this whole thing.
Really don't know how the legs feel yet, because I haven't gone hard enough.
And this backside is literally cooling just the back part of it to get it even cooler. I thought it was weird having those 2 heat pipes, and that is the only way that it's transferring stuff.
Both sides.
Literally dual-sided cooling, and look at that beauty right there. It is actually hidden, well protected.
The Apple logo there?
Yes, I do see it. I do see the Apple logo, and we have this whole thing. Look at this whole thermal material, this whole casing with that plate that goes straight to the coolers. That is incredible.
That's insane. That's copper.
What's copper?
All of that bottom plate, right?
Yeah, I guess that is all copper. Yeah, it is for sure copper. This is all copper. Man, look at that beauty. Look at that, guys. Just like the shirt that you should buy with promo code M1 Ultra for 20% off. You have this beautiful thing with the Apple logo. Man, that is incredible. And we have mission successful. And look, this M1 Ultra is literally, I don't know, half of the whole motherboard size. It is huge and it is thick. And it is incredible. It's actually really interesting how it just has contact where the M1 Ultra chip is, nowhere around. So it really doesn't have to cool down the memory. It actually just passively goes through. But that little shape right there shows exactly the size of the M1 Ultra.
Clearly I'm hoping for a feather
The M1 Pro Max and Ultra
to
looks
use
huge.
on the Alp. If I get it anywhere early, I'll just hang on to it
It's
until I
nice
get
that
to the
there's a
Alp.
little extra space there for the thermal compound.
Haven't decided where I'm going to use it yet,
With
but
that said, let's go ahead and clean it up and see that Apple
we'll
logo.
see.
So there you guys go. We have that Apple logo on there. Now you know just how big the M1 Ultra is, both the package and just the chipset. We have this beautiful look and just how crazy Apple went. Absolutely, I don't know, insane building the system. I do not envy the people that are putting these together day to day. And just to show you guys the difference, here is a Ryzen processor, the whole package compared to Apple's M1 Ultra package. That is crazy. But at the same time, you see a size difference. Apple's has the RAM in there, the controllers in there, everything is in there, up to 128 gigs of RAM compared to just a CPU. So they have an incredible, incredible design. Guys, thank you for watching. If you guys appreciate it, please subscribe. We have so many comparisons coming as far as the actual workflows for real world stuff like photo editing, video editing, coding, just so much stuff, logic. You guys can check that out, different comparisons, and also which upgrades are worth it. Do you need the extra RAM? Do you need the 64-core Ultra, or should you just get the 48-core like this one is right here? Or is the M1 Max good enough? What are the thermal differences? All that stuff we are going to check out, as well as the display compared to LG's, compared to the Pro Display, a lot of detailed videos. Please wish me luck putting this back together. I'm going to need it, and check out one of these shirts with the code M1 Ultra. We have a couple great videos right over there for you guys to watch while you wait. Click above to subscribe. This is Max, and I'll see you in the next video.
Riding fixed gears is my way to decompress. It's my therapy and my stress relief. When I'm in traffic and I find a line and hit it just right, it's this feeling unique to that moment. I got into cycling 8 years ago. My passion always kinda stayed with fixed gear riding. There's always been something about it that just draws me in. You laser focus on a bike that you can't stop with proper experience, but don't want to. I'm constantly looking 5 moves ahead, looking at the front of tire direction, a blinker, or what lights are doing, and while moving fast. It's a formula that just makes sense to me. That eventually evolved into fixed gear crit racing. It's like NASCAR for cycling.
The community drew me in initially, and then railing corners at 30 kept me there. I never meant to get into it, or saw myself sponsored and actively traveling to race, but I couldn't put it down if I tried at this point. I work 14 hours and then immediately hop on the bike for an hour just to ease my mind. I don't want to know me without bikes.
Today, we're talking about a brand new graphics collection pack for Final Cut Pro 10. Start off by checking out the link down below to see what this pack includes. And just like the previous packs that I reviewed, this one is just as overwhelming. So having a look at the site, this is a graphics pack. So you're going to get a lot of graphic animations for Final Cut Pro 10 and Apple Motion. These are fully customizable, going from the text to the colors and to the speed and the type of animation that come within each individual preset. So to go into specifics, we have over 500 high-end items, we have over 22 different categories. They're easy to edit, just drag and drop it within your timeline. They're up to 4K in resolution and up to 60 frames per second frame rate. So ton of different options here, and this will work on the 10.4.7 Final Cut Pro 10 versions and higher. So here we are within Final Cut Pro. We have the graphics collection pack already installed, and you can see how many graphics we have already preset right into Final Cut Pro 10. Everything is very well labeled. 3D devices right here, we have backgrounds, badges, callouts, and so on. And along with these graphics, we also have transitions, and you can see them right here. This is mainly a graphics collection pack, so let's focus on the graphics. They're just drag and drop graphics. So here's a preset. I'm just going to drag and drop it right into the timeline, and you can see how fluid the animation is. Now I'm working off of the 2016 MacBook Pro, so it might be a little bit choppy, but newer MacBooks and newer computers in general with better processing power will handle this a lot better. But when it comes down to the customization, we can change everything from the color to the text and even the speed of the animation. We can even change the images by using different sources right here. These are drop zones, so you can just select an image and drop it right into this box. So these are standalone graphics, and what I mean by that is that this is not really intended to be placed on top of other footage. This is its own different screen. So let's look at the other options here for that 3D devices category. Here's modern.
Woohoo, experience!
Let's see the text, the animation.
Give me a feather, give me a feather.
Pop up right here.
Or something.
Alright, so let's say I want to mix some
Feather would be my preference, clear.
Let's see what that looks like. So right now I have some preloaded footage with a person texting. How can we make this better? Well, what if we animated the text bubbles? So luckily in this graphics collection pack, we have that option. So because this graphics collection is so massive, I'm just going to search for it. It's called Bubble Chat. And here it is, Bubble Chat. We have a bunch of different options here. So I use iPhone, so I'm going to use something that looks pretty similar to iPhone. We actually have the vintage iPhone texting animations right here. It looks pretty cool. All right, so this one looks nice and looks pretty similar to that of iPhone text messaging. All we have to do is just drag and drop it over the footage. I'm going to match up the timing. I'm going to cut it up right here. Boom. Now, you can see the animations start popping up. Look how animated and great it looks. I want to remove the background to make it look even better because don't forget, we have footage underneath this. So luckily, we have the option to remove the background right here. Just check that, and boom, we have text messaging. And it just makes this shot so much better. So here you can see the bubble in time, and you can adjust them to make the bubbles come in later or earlier. So going back to some more stock footage, I have a lady here looking at her laptop. How can we make this shot look better? And by the way, this graphics collection pack is especially useful whenever you're doing tutorials or corporate videos for your clients. So let's scroll for some more options here. We have badges, which of course are animated, but for right now, I don't want to use any badges for this specific shot. I want to maybe make a call out. So we have animated call outs as well. And you can even add in images of people. We're going to drag and drop it over the footage. I'm going to align the timing, and let's just check out the animation. Cool, so all we really have to do is just reposition it so it doesn't block the whole entire shot. I'm going to use the position all option, and I'm just going to move it to the side here, just like that, and then up. But notice how the actual pointer is cut off from the shot. Well, luckily, we have the flip option here, which automatically flips everything for us. So all we really have to do now is just reposition it again, and you can reposition the pointer any way you want. Obviously, you will need to be changing the font and the text to make it look better, but what I really like about this is that it's fully customizable on screen, so you can adjust the position of basically anything you want just by clicking and dragging. So you can see all of the text here can be repositioned, and the text can easily be edited within the parameters. Now let's briefly talk about the emotions or emojis. They're all animated and they look great. They do come with a transparent background, so you can literally place this over anything. That's hilarious, right? So all of these are animated, and you can adjust them any way you like. You can change the skin color, you can make them red or blue or whatever. You You can change the mouth, the eyebrows, you can change the scale, and obviously the position. So there's literally no limit to what you can do with these emojis or emotions. Next, hand gestures. In a lot of corporate videos, they like to add in some animations of hands going up, asking for questions, stuff like that. So this is where you're gonna find all of those cool hand animations. For example, right here. Except this one is, this one looks funny going over her head. You can obviously reposition the hand so it's not blocking her, just like that. Or you can do it within the parameters to make it more accurate. And boom, check out the smooth playback right there. Now let's say you don't want to use any stock footage and you just want to build your own animations from scratch and just have your whole entire video animated. Well, guess what? You can. We're going to go to the animated background. So we have a background right here. I'm going to drag and drop it. Let's play it back. Plays back very smoothly. And what you can do is you can drop in, let's say, a badge right here. Boom, 50% off discount. That already looks fantastic, to be honest. You can add as many as you want, change any parameter that you want. So watch, they play back at the same time. You can reposition it, make it look even better. Look at that, we're just missing one more. Let's go ahead and drag and drop another one. Boom, premium. It looks so good. Look at that. It looks like a legitimate commercial. Obviously, it needs a little bit of fine-tuning, but you get my point. With these animated backgrounds, you can literally build anything you want from scratch with these simple animations. And lastly, there are two big things that I want to cover, and that is the info bars and the infographics. So for those of you who like to share a lot of statistics, those infographics are going to help you with your content. The info bars are pretty straightforward and simple. They are basically lower thirds, but have a ton of info that pop up. We have options that come up at the bottom of the screen. So for example, if I load in some stock footage, you can see with the info bar, it plays back kind of like a lower third, but again, with a lot more detail. And with that corporate video style, this looks really good. Now let's talk about infographics. For those of you who love to see statistics and like to put them in your videos and make them look good, you're gonna be using infographics. You can see how many options there are right here, and of course, they're all animated. That's what makes this so good and engaging for your videos. So if you drag and drop it, you can see how good this looks. And there's so many different options. You can literally drag and drop them all into your timeline, and you can compare them if you like to see which one really suits the style of your video. We have pie charts, we have comparison charts, we have simple line graphs, as you can see right here. All of these are fully customizable. You can even take out the background, so you can have your stock footage or any other footage playing in the background, and it just looks really good. So for example, for this shot, I would probably have the background image or background video lower in opacity just so that we can see the infograph a lot better. So for example, it would play back like this. And you can see how good that looks. Now, to be honest, this video does not do it justice when it comes down to the amount that you're getting with the graphics collection pack, because we still have lower thirds, animated titles, we have typography. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's gonna take you years before you even use a third of what this graphics collection pack has. So if you're interested, check out the link down below. You will not be sorry. I mean, this is overwhelming. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to get through all of these. So if you're interested, again, check out that link and let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I will see you in another video. Peace.
And guys, we're back with another tutorial, and this one is probably one of the most important you will ever learn for any video editing, any audio editing, any editing software ever. It's the power of keyframes, and we're about to show you how they work right now. Keyframes are used to change parameter values between 2 or more points in time. Using keyframes, you can create simple animations, like fades. We'll walk you through fading out this circle. First, we'll place a circle in our project. To do this, navigate to the Titles and Generators icon on the top left, then click on it. Choose Generators, then Elements, and double-click on the Shapes thumbnail to add it to the timeline. Select the clip in the timeline, and position the playhead on top of it so it's visible in the viewer. Then, navigate to the inspector on the top right. If the inspector isn't showing, be sure to toggle this icon. We're going to make an adjustment to the circle's appearance, so we'll click on this Generators icon, and we'll adjust the circle generator. Now, we want to keyframe the opacity of the circle to fade it out, so we'll click on the Video Inspector icon. And right under Compositing, we'll find the Opacity control. We'll set our first keyframe by clicking on this diamond-shaped keyframe icon to the right. The golden color indicates that we now have a keyframe. If it or not, it will for ways to forget to they're off.
Okay, why would anyone spend $1,000 on a mechanical keyboard? I like the Apple one. We just got an interview with Tacx. Thank you to Shopify for sponsoring a portion of this video. Okay, so if you Google Answer in Progress, one of the first autocompletes you get is about mechanical keyboards. Oh, It used to be, I promise. Sabrina's got one, I've got one, Melissa's got one, and I like my mechanical keyboard, but I don't actually know anything about mechanical keyboards. I just Googled keyboards and bought one that looked nice. Turns out it was a mechanical keyboard and it is nice to type on. But I'm not alone in my newly discovered love of mechanical keyboards. It seems like more and more people in recent years are buying mechanical keyboards. And recently on my travels on the internet, I came across these channels, forums, websites dedicated to customizing mechanical keyboards and building luxury mechanical keyboards. I also saw that some of these keyboards were going for thousands of dollars. So what's the fascination with this old-fashioned technology? Why is it coming back into popularity? And most importantly, why would someone spend $1,000 on a keyboard? Let's figure it out.
I've got
There isn't a book I could
4
mechanical keyboards to make
Keychron K2, Aqua 3068, Moonlander, which is a big split ergonomic crazy one.
But I felt like I was still
What is it? RK86,
what's at the heart of this
Royal Kluge one, and
really enthusiastic about
Mojo 68,
and spend a lot
most
of
recent
money
one.
on a good
Lube
mechanical
switches,
keyboard.
that's really
I
nice.
have a plan. It's a very complicated plan, it's a very ingenious plan, and it's one that no one has ever thought of before. I'm gonna ask someone.
I get a lot of comments of people saying, oh, I watched one video of yours and thought nothing of it, and then 6 months later I've got 10 keyboards. And I'm kind of like, sorry?
This is David, otherwise known as Glasses. He has a YouTube channel where he builds mechanical keyboards and generally causes chaos.
Oh, screw it. Congratulations.
First of all, if you recognize this place,
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel.
no you don't. So I thought we'd start with looking at my keyboards, the ones that I've had so far, getting your impressions of them, seeing what you like, what you don't like. My first keyboard was the Apple, you know, I like it.
There is like no travel here. It's like you're typing on a billet of aluminium. I like that it's tactile.
So what is tactility? It's like the little pop that you get when you...
It's like that feedback you feel when you press down a little bump that usually aligns with when the switch actuates. So I like that, but besides that, I hate everything else about this. Yeah,
But I like it.
That's all that matters. No, that's not true.
So my first mechanical keyboard was this one.
Apple switches. Let's actually see what they are. Jamie Reds, like 75% layout as well.
Everyone in my house complained because it was really loud.
Oh, this is loud.
This was loud.
I think my standard for loud is.
So I went from that to this, you know, a little quieter, and no one in my house complains anymore.
Okay,
so
problem solved.
Problem solved.
So we're done. Okay,
Yeah.
Stabilizers are a little bit better. They're still
So still not a fan.
not a fan, but I like it more.
That's the end of my keyboard journey. And so now,
This is the start with your keyboard.
and so you've got some keyboards that you want to. Whoa. Okay, so it's it's really heavy.
It's got a 2-piece aluminium case, and inside it has an internal brass weight.
Ooh, okay. I don't know what these are called, like the non-square.
These are modifiers.
These are called modifiers. The non-square ones feel a lot better.
We'll keep it going.
Okay, this is a linear, and then this is a tactile. It's kind of like bubble wrap.
That's actually not a bad description. Like you kind of have to build up to it, and
Yeah.
it just collapses in it.
It's difficult to explain like the feeling of things on
It
camera.
is, isn't it?
Yeah, the spacebar is so nice. That's sick. I love this.
This is the next one.
Wow, this is really fun. Oh, every single one I'm like, wow. This doesn't have any of the keys. This is like half a keyboard.
Oh, this is a 60%.
So this is the Cherry MX Browns. I think the thing that I'm most impressed with by is just the space bars.
It's such a world of difference from like.
Horrific. I feel like a hipster. I love the look of this one. I would feel that like my fingers would get tired after a while of these. And then you just have this one M key. I can now understand now that I'm here. They feel different, so I have a different like response to them.
This is an SGI granite.
Okay.
Instead of MX switches, these have out switches.
And these are switches that don't exist anymore? Oh, these are really nice. They're like the secretary in Monsters Inc. I'm
That's-
watching you,
that's a good
Wazowski.
throwback.
How do I get into this? Because I've clearly been doing something wrong in that like
All of these comes from a custom kit. In the hobby, when we say a kit, we basically mean it's a case, a PCB, and a plate, and you then buy your own stabilizers, switches, and keycaps, and you basically build that keyboard from ground
Yeah,
up.
I've never built my own keyboard yet, but I'd like to at some point. I have actually silver switches to take apart. I want to lube them and stick them in my
the casing,
Moonlander.
which kind of make up the brains and the body of the keyboard. The casing sort of houses all of the components, while the PCB is the actual electronic circuit that communicates with your computer. Every time one of the switches is pressed down, it completes a small electronic circuit which sends a signal to your computer to let it know that one of the keys has been pressed. But then you get to the more exciting parts of a mechanical keyboard, the keycap and the key switches. The keycap is what you would normally think of when you think of a key in a keyboard. And learning more about this, you can get these in a variety of different shapes, sizes, materials. Basically, anything that can be customized about a keycap. There's even a thriving community of artisan keycaps, which are one-of-a-kind sort of unique art pieces that you can have as keycaps. And in the process of researching this video, I did order some new keycaps, which was fun. And in the process of ordering that stuff, I ended up discovering this app by the sponsor of this video, Shopify. So I decided to ask them if I could just talk about the app instead of doing a normal ad read, and they said yes, so now I'm just gonna do that instead. If you haven't heard of Shopify, it's a platform, you can build an online store, it's very intuitive, there's templates, it's drag and drop, it's really good. However, okay, so basically they have this app called Shop, and what it does is it basically unifies all of your orders into one app. It plugs into your emails and finds the order numbers, and like you can click through and you can see all the details. Everything that you need is right there, and you don't have to go into your emails and find the tracking number and then look at a website that was developed by one guy in 2007. We love it. You can ask it to send notifications when stuff is shipped, if there's any delays, the whole shebang. The app also surfaces returns policies, so it becomes really easy to be able to just see if you can still return something, if it's in shipping, or even if it's arrived. It's all in the app, and and it's great. So basically, it's the best app if you shop online. You can find more information about Shopify and the Shop app in the link in the description. So thank you to Shopify for sponsoring this video and letting me talk to you about my favorite new app instead of doing a typical ad read. And on with the rest of the video. The pretty keycaps aren't the only exciting part of a mechanical keyboard. It's underneath it, the key switch is arguably just as interesting. This little thing is what makes a mechanical keyboard, well, mechanical. When I spoke to Glasses about these little things, I started to realize the incredible history that goes with them. It's hard to pinpoint the objective origin of mechanical keyboards. Manufacturers were experimenting with a variety of mechanical mechanisms. As time progressed, computers were no longer room-sized machines owned by large corporations and universities. They became smaller and more affordable. This meant more demand for keyboards, so manufacturers looked to increase production rates and cut costs. This resulted in membrane keyboards, which used cheaply produced sheets of rubber rather than individual switches. I mean, that was the take. These cheap membrane keyboards produced a mushy, rubbery feeling rather than a satisfying click of a mechanical switch. This new form of keyboard was marketed as a quieter typing experience, but its main popularity was driven by its price. While many mechanical keyboard companies folded or switched to producing membrane keyboards, companies like Cherry, now the most popular switch manufacturer in the world, continued producing mechanical switches. While the typing experience worsened due to membrane keyboards, it generally didn't matter to most people. Personal computers were still seen as a productivity tool, like a wrench or a hammer, and used for professional work rather than a personal electronic device. So, buying keyboards at an accessible price for home and offices was the main concern. However, as we began to use these devices outside of work, and as our lives and identities intertwined themselves with technology, people started to view their devices as an extension of themselves, personalizing their devices to suit their needs. As a result, in the late 2000s, early signs of the modern keyboard hobby started to flourish in Korean on-the-desk forums. This is considered by many as the start
Here's Pine 1. We'll give it a little bit of effort. Nothing crazy, though.
Korea and in limited run manufacturing. But in time, the US got their own forums, and it's on these forums that people started to experiment with the characteristics of different switches. And what they found is if they combined different pieces from different switches,
Just make sure I'm warmed up.
Frankenstein
Well,
and it's from this
nothing crazy.
that we got fan favorite Frankenstein switches, like the Holy Panda. So the Holy Panda started off as a Frankenstein switch where people would have to take two different switches and put them together to make them. But because of their popularity, people started to manufacture the specifications of a Holy Panda as one whole switch.
The creation of Holy Pandas, I guess, accidentally created the switch that everybody wanted to try. One of the main sound tests and ways people probably heard of a Holy Panda, as I kind of mentioned, was mine as well, was the Tacx type sound test, which was his Fiel with Holy Pandas. So much so that most people say, you know, you watch this video once and you're done, you know, you're into the hobby, into the rabbit hole. That really set it sky high as like the first big Frankenstein switch.
Okay, so during this time, the mechanical keyboard started to become really popular with gamers. It kind of makes sense because those are the types of people who spend a lot of money on computer hardware to have their optimal gaming setup for their 0 millisecond lag response time so they can get owned in Valorant bronze lobbies. And with the rise of popularity in the gaming community, we saw a massive boom in a type of switch called the Cherry MX switch. If you've ever tried to buy a keyboard online, you were probably given the option of a Cherry MX switch, whether it was a red switch, a blue switch, or a brown switch.
I don't think too many people would fight you on saying that Cherry MX or Cherry as a brand are probably the most important player in mechanical keyboards and now has become the de facto. The Cherry MX patent expiring was probably the most important milestone for the explosion of boutique switches in the hobby.
The Cherry patent expiring was a game changer, an environment modifier, a different gravy. Because now that the original patent had expired, you could take the original design and you could modify it and remix it, and then you have a new switch built different. And this caused the rise of new manufacturers such as Gateron making new switches in the Cherry MX style without getting sued, which is always good, I guess. But also we saw the rise of smaller community vendors such as Zeal and Novelkeys, and so we got this whole new wave of innovation of people making modified Cherry MX style switches.
People really liked the Ergo Clear, but didn't like the effort you had to go to make them. You know, you needed 2 sets of keyboards, you needed to open it and put in a spring. And Zeal basically said, okay, I'm gonna go make the first manufacturer community-made custom line of switches. That switch was so important because it was the first switch that was community made.
And now we get to the craziest part of this whole story, the Stelios controversy. Bum, bum, bum. So basically, Zeal, one of the community manufacturers, was creating this switch called the Zealio. It was a boutique switch that was sold through a variety of different marketplaces. So basically, Zeal would tell a bunch of marketplaces that they were allowed to resell the switch that they were producing. However, one of these marketplaces was selling counterfeit Zealios. Bum, bum, bum. So they were actually an official reseller of Zealios. However, they were selling more than they were supplied by Zeal. So they were getting some knockoff Zealios from somewhere. But the counterfeit Zealios, otherwise known as Stelios because they stole the design of it, you get the picture, were almost identical in feel, experience, and design, to the point where it was so hard to tell the difference. And the quality was basically the same as well. So people started wondering who was the manufacturer behind the Stelios, the fake Zealios. I guess if you can produce such high quality counterfeits, you can produce your own genuine boutique switches. And that's exactly what happened. So many more people saw the quality in the Stelios and decided to make their switches from that manufacturer. Literally, crime does pay. What is this story? And that takes us all the way up to now. There's been this explosion of switch designs and a lot more manufacturers, and the whole scene is bursting with unique designs and new and exciting ways to try out the hobby. There's different form factors, different tactile feedback, and custom and artisan keycaps.
And seriously, if you haven't built your own keyboard, I strongly recommend it. It's not as hard as you think, and you really end up with this thing that you can really say, you know, I built this thing that I now use to type on every day. It's really cool.
Nowadays, you can go online and design a board that looks nothing like anyone has ever seen before, or build a board that reflects your personality. And now it's my turn. So what are we building?
Which ones do you feel you're kind of more drawn to? Let's just eliminate a few.
So I'm trying to find my favorite switch. Okay. How do I do this?
You type on them, and then you type on them some more, and you keep typing on them until there's one that just shines above the rest of them.
I'm like hypnotized by this.
It's good,
I was like, this sounds like walking on snow in Minecraft. I think this one's gonna go. I'm gonna get rid of this. It's just not satisfying. We're fired. I think honestly, this is the better feeling keyboard for me. This is like popping bubble wrap all day, and that is a very nice feeling. So I think I'm gonna go for this one as my
The winner. Yeah, I mean, I guess the closest thing we can build with a keyboard then will be these holy pandas, which.
Ooh. These are the holy pandas I've been hearing so much about. Okay, if I'm honest, they just look like any other Switch to me. I'm excited. Cool.
Today, we are building this Glacier 80 TKO, to be honest.
Okay, it's a very fancy box.
Oh, it's
doing an unboxing on the Art in Progress YouTube channel. What's going on? What am I looking at?
So this is foam, this is more foam,
Okay.
this is more foam. This is our PCB, this is kind of our
This is the brains.
brains of the keyboard. Oh, it's hot swap. Okay, that's not a problem.
So this is, oh my god, I'm gonna have to stand up for this. This is really heavy. This is a real keyboard.
Now we have to stab this open. There you go. So the first thing we need to do when building a keyboard is to prepare our components. So these are our stabilizers.
So like, the spacebar doesn't wobble because of this?
exactly. We want to increase smoothness.
Yeah.
And we want to remove rattle.
I'm so scared of breaking it.
Honestly, you won't break it. And if you do, we have one. Okay, these ones are a bit. Let me do this one. There you go. You actually need to snap these off because there's two individual ones that will connect by cable.
I was scared of breaking these.
There you go. Now this is the fun part. We get to put a switch on.
What exactly are we doing?
So
I'm just pressing a button.
I'm pressing it to make sure it feels consistent throughout the press. Make sure there's not ticking on the edges. So this will probably be the part where you speed up 14,000%.
I think it would be funner if you just cut on every. Like, just like, it's the last one. Done.
Jeez.
Completed keyboard, guys.
Yeah. That is a pretty keyboard.
Okay, keycaps. 8, 6, 7, 8.
It's actually 7, 8, 9.
Oh,
It's the wrong 8 also.
That's
the number 8.
I tried.
QWERTY.
I have B, and I want to put it next to A. But I think these are the real winners. Okay.
Before I get...
We did it. So this is my new keyboard.
This is your new cable.
In comparison to my first ever keyboard,
Let's take that away from me.
my first foray into mechanical keyboards. For context, I'm not like doing this softly and this hard. Whenever I watch these videos online, I always think, oh, they're really hamming this one up, and then they're like going softer than that. That's not true.
I think the stabilizer is probably the biggest difference. It's an easy mod you can do to any keyboard, really. Once your ears are open to rattle, you can't unhear it. Like, if you don't know it's there, you probably don't care.
Yeah.
Once someone tells you it exists and it doesn't have to, it's game over.
I guess I'm done with this keyboard. Do you know why I typed?
Please subscribe to the Glasses channel.
I actually did type. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.
Oh,
To the Glasses channel. Thanks for doing this.
no worries. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. Can I keep this?
Yeah, sure. Just pay me the amount for keyboard, and we can,
How much is this keyboard?
probably like $650.
Wow. Okay. So be sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Okay, I was just about to finish work, but then I got an email from the king of mechanical keyboards himself. We just got an interview with Tacx Types. Oh my god. Hello, how's it going?
Hi, nice to meet you.
This is Tacx Types, arguably one of the most influential mechanical keyboards creators on YouTube. He has sound tests for seemingly every Switch on the market and has built luxury mechanical keyboards for the likes of Lily Pichu, Dave2D, and Tfue. So basically, I've been on a mechanical keyboards journey for the last month or two.
Okay. So you're really fresh.
I'm really fresh, yeah. Here's like the central question of the video. This is where I started from. Why would anyone spend $1,000 on a keyboard?
Yeah, I think something that I've just come to realize is there are certain things in my life that I use quite a lot. I have a Herman Miller Aeron chair, and most people would say, why would you spend that much on a chair? But if you think about it, at least for me, I'm sitting on a chair, more than half of my day sometimes. So why not invest in that? And as someone who does, spend their time in front of a keyboard for many hours a day, I'm constantly typing. I think it is, people used to not think of the keyboard as something that could be invested in, but with the recent popularity that this hobby has seen, I think many of us are starting to realize, the keyboard can be something that's pleasant.
I definitely didn't realize how much of a difference the custom mechanical keyboard or even a modded mechanical keyboard is from just off-the-shelf mechanical keyboards.
The keyboard hobby is just one of those hobbies where you have to try it in person to really understand, I feel like. Like, no matter how many videos you watch, like, no matter how many sound tests you listen to, nothing really beats trying it and experiencing it in person. I kind of went through what you went through too. After I built my first one, I was like, okay, this is addicting. I see why people spend a lot on their keyboards.
Why do you think the hobby has like exploded in popularity?
I mean, I think my Tfue video definitely helped. He is still probably one of the biggest names in esports. I think the pandemic hit 3 or 4 months after my Tfue build came out, and everyone started to work from home. And I think people overall were just consuming more content during the pandemic. People started to care about their work setups, I guess, because everyone's working from home. They want to treat themselves a little bit. Everyone's socially deprived. They're trying to feel something through retail therapy. So I think the pandemic for sure also played a great part in the recent rise of the hobby.
I think there was a lot of people during the pandemic who had never ever thought about a work setup. Like they've always worked in a library or in an office.
It's an interesting time for newcomers. I feel like it's both a great and a bad time for people trying to get into the hobby at the moment. The hobby's kind of going through a growing pain phase as everyone's trying to scale up to accommodate for this influx of demand. There is that customer experience aspect that might rub people the wrong way. One of the first confusing terms you might hear in the hobby is the word group buy. And that's what the hobby operates on largely still. You can think of a group buy essentially as kind of a Kickstarter or Indiegogo project. Basically, individuals in the hobby essentially putting out a project idea. We're not mass producing these keyboards, right? It's individuals running their own projects. It can take months, sometimes years. We are seeing years timelines now at this point for certain projects. You need to have a lot of patience in this hobby. You should expect at least half a year minimum just to call it safe as of now.
What do you think is the future of the mechanical keyboard hobby?
I think there's still a ton to be explored with switches. Everyone is still so hooked onto the Cherry MX design style. I think it's going to be interesting to see the new types of switches that come out, for example. I mean, I'd love to see crazier keyboard designs. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have like an SD card reader or extra USB ports on a keyboard one day. Meetups. Maybe now's not the greatest time to advocate for meetups, but like I get a lot of questions saying like, oh, like where do you find these meetups? Like how do I go to a meetup? Honestly, like if you have an interest in running a meetup, I would say go for it. Everyone's just looking for someone to take that initiative. So if there are no meetups in your area that you know of, like feel free to organize something. Like it's still a very friendly and community-oriented hobby.
Meetups sound really exciting. Like I've never been to a meetup.
Yeah.
The only person I've met who's interested in mechanical keyboards is Glasses.
You kind of had a mini meetup there too.
Yeah. You know, I guess I never really thought about going to a meetup. It was like, oh, meetups sound really cool, but it's probably for people who know about keyboards.
I mean, that was me too. I mean, it still feels nerdy to say I'm going to a keyboard meetup. But I think the first one that I went to just really left a nice impression on me. Just like how friendly everyone was, just being able to try and even like just touch all of these nice, pretty products that I've been seeing online. Hopefully, once the world opens up more, we'll have more of those. But if you can go to a meetup, highly recommend you do. Meetups are probably the next big thing for raising even more awareness of the hobby.
Okay, so in the process of making this video, I've been trying to figure out how to explain why the mechanical keyboard hobby is so appealing. And I think it's everything that everyone has mentioned already. It's the fact that you can build a keyboard that is completely unique to yourself, but it's also the fact that a custom mechanical keyboard is just so much better than anything you can find off the shelf. And with how digital our lives are and how much time we spend at our computers, having a lovely keyboard that looks and feels like yours has brought a small joy into a part of my life that is usually so mundane.
I am thinking about building I think it's called a corn. They're like split keyboards for ergonomics. So that would be the one I would build if I'm going to build one.
Yeah, I get it now. But also just personally,
a split, fully programmable keyboard.
And sealed off. And with big tech companies consuming basically the whole of the technological world, seeing the mechanical keyboard hobby remain a small community of designers, hobbyists, and enthusiasts just making keyboards because they love it has been a breath of fresh air, and I think that's beautiful. And yeah, while you can spend $1,000 on a mechanical keyboard, you don't have to. You can build a nice custom mechanical keyboard for a lot less than that, and it'll last you for years. And honestly, I would recommend buying at least one custom mechanical keyboard in your life because it's such a unique experience. In fact, in the process of making this video, our editor Joe built his own custom mechanical keyboard for the first time. And I think he agrees it's just something that you have to try to really get.
It is so cool, and he didn't even mention the lights.
Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. And if you don't have a couple of dollars to spare, you can subscribe to our newsletter where we give out free bonus stuff, playlists, and potentially some keyboard ASMR. Anyway, thanks for watching. Keyboards.
Hey everyone, today we're talking about 8 mistakes that new bicycle commuters make. Come for the ride. Hey everyone, I'm Tom and this is Shifter, a channel about urban cycling and bike commuting. And I've been bike commuting for more years than I care to admit. And I get a lot of questions through this channel and just from people I know. And so I thought I'd try to help all you noobs out there by pointing out a few mistakes that you can easily avoid. Mistake number 1 is trying to do too much. So this may be a North American phenomenon, but it is really strange how bike commuting gets kind of wrapped up into fitness and macho culture. I often hear from cyclists who want to bike commute but are kind of worried that they won't be able to meet the sort of unwritten expectations from other cyclists. You know, maybe their commute is too short, or maybe they want to use an e-bike, or maybe they don't have the right gear. And somehow that makes it feel like they're not a real bicycle commuter or something strange like that. Well, I'm here to say, don't listen to other cyclists. There are no rules about bike commuting, and everyone is welcome to try. There is no club you have to join. Whether it's once a week or once a month, or whether you do it to save on parking fees, or whether you do it for climate change, or for fitness, or just for mental health. It doesn't matter your motivation, it doesn't matter why you're doing or the reasons you've got or the gear you've got. Just get out and give it a try. Any day that you get a bike ride is better than a day without a bike ride, so there really is no downside. Give it a shot. Mistake number 2 is gear overload. I often hear from people who want to start bike commuting and they feel this need to go out and buy a whole bunch of new stuff, new panniers or new GPS trackers or even a new bike. And if you've got the money and you like doing that, go for it. But I don't think it's a requirement. All you really need is a bike, maybe a backpack to put your stuff in, and then you can start. Hopefully you will develop a habit and you'll become a bike commuter for years and years, which will give you time to hone your approach. You'll have plenty of time to figure out what gear you need, and you can go.
Maybe fenders too, if you're gonna commute somewhere wet.
And the will to give it a shot.
But he's right.
Number 3 is choosing your route. So I found in most cities there are multiple ways to get to a destination on a bike. Definitely more than in a car. And if all you've done in the past,
so I'm working at in Prince George still. That's the best route to get places.
So I think it's
So I've been outside, I don't know, a dozen times now on a bike. Some of them have been way out there rides, some of them have been commutes.
There's usually some cool ways to get around.
So you do the bike shop.
What works? works.
I might go in there
Sometimes
this
we're just taking a
afternoon
different route to work
for
because
some
it
work
feels
for a
nice
bit.
riding there. And different
Just
seasons can have
because it's
different
fun to
routes as
work
well.
at
I
my
find like in
shop.
the wintertime you might choose a different route than you would in the summertime,
So,
especially if you live in a place with lots of snow and ice.
gotta figure out
Keep
the best way
experimenting.
there.
It's worth the time
Back.
to maximize your efficiency and your
Just know
pleasure
it's
out of the
fun.
route if you just keep trying
And
new
then the
routes.
longer
Mistake
ways
number
back that
4
are more
is
fun
being
even.
patient with the logistics. When I first started bike commuting, I remember the hardest part was not the riding or dealing with traffic or the lack of bike lanes, although that's still a problem. It was the logistics, like when I get to work, where do I park my bike? Do I shower? Do I not shower? Where do I hang my towel? Those sorts of things I found really difficult. And I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. I think the answer is be patient and just keep trying. You will work it out eventually. Here's an example. It took me a long time to figure out that if I just leave a pair of work shoes under my desk at work, that gave me a lot more options when I'm riding. I could choose my footwear based on the weather without having to think about a whole change of clothes when I arrived. Seems like a no-brainer now, but it took me some time to figure that out. So be patient with those day-to-day logistics. Mistake number 5 is thinking about speed rather than efficiency. When bike commuters first get started, they tend to want to go as quickly as possible. But I found what's more important is efficiency, and I mean this in 2 ways. One way is to think about transportation efficiency. I mean, being on a bike is just way more efficient than a car in downtown areas. Going for lunch, for example, whipping out on your bike is way faster than trying to search for parking in a car. Stopping for errands on the way home on a bike is way more efficient than a car because you can just roll right up to the front door and lock your bike. But efficiency applies to your bike as well. Sure, it's tempting to go for the fastest bike, but sometimes those bikes are geared in a way that requires a lot of effort from the rider, which means you can sometimes end up a sweaty mess at your destination. What you really want is a bike that maximizes your forward momentum with as little effort from you as possible. It means you will use as little energy as possible and get to your destination quickly and efficiently. That's bike efficiency. I think that's way more important than raw speed. Mistake number 6 is dressing like a cyclist. There are sort of 2 approaches to bike commuting. One is to wear your regular clothes, ride slowly in a relaxed manner, and sort of enjoy the experience that way. The second one is to go quickly and try to use your commute for fitness. I'd say neither one really requires you to dress like a cyclist with all your lycra and spandex. In the first scenario, you just wear your regular clothes, no brainer. In the second scenario, I'd actually say it's better to wear like athletic clothing ahead of cyclist clothing because it's more practical for a commute. You might need pockets for your phone or your wallet. You might want longer sleeves to keep the sun off of your skin. You might want to wear a hat. And maybe more importantly, I just don't want my coworkers to see me in lycra. So no judgment on any of this. If you want to wear your cycling clothing to work, go for it. But there is a perception out there that you are not a real commuter if you wear regular clothing or just regular athletic shorts. And I don't think that's true. Just wear what works for you. Mistake number 7 is not recognizing the risk of a hybrid bike. When I encounter bike commuters here in Calgary, a lot of them are riding what we would call hybrid bikes. They're basically flat handlebar bikes that are built like mountain bikes, but they have skinny tires. And the reason most people end up with this bike is because they think to themselves, yeah, I want a bike for commuting, but I still might go out mountain biking on the trails on the weekend. This is a mountain bike town. If this is you, great, good choice. But I think more people should probably think more deeply about their aspirational mountain biking. Are you really getting out in the trails on the weekend? Or is 99% of your time riding in the city? If the honest answer is the latter, I would say you might want to think a bit more deeply about your bike options than just the default hybrid style. Hybrid bikes can be less comfortable than an upright city bike. They can be maybe less efficient. They can be loaded with too many gears or too many fancy parts or like really specific racing parts that require all kinds of maintenance. They can just be a bit of a headache compared to a more practical city bike option. In cases like that, a more upright city bike or a Dutch bike or a more comfortable bike may be a better option for you, but it requires you to be honest with how you're really going to use that bike. And my final mistake that newbie cyclists make is number 8, bragging about your commute. Now, I know there's a temptation to brag about your bike commute because you feel so good doing it. I know that's why I do it. But try to resist the urge for a couple of reasons. Number 1 is that it does tend to perpetuate the stereotype of the self-righteous, full of themselves cyclist, which I kind of hate. Number 2 is that it's just not brag-worthy. I mean, you never hear people bragging about their bus commute, do they? And really what it comes down to, in a city at least, is more to do with the city than yourself as a cyclist. If you go to a real bike-friendly city that's full of bike infrastructure and safe bike lanes and safe routes, you'll see all kinds of people riding. Moms with kids, older people, younger people, everybody rides and nobody brags about it. It's just a way of life. So that's really the goal, and helping our cities get there is about...
The reason people don't bike commute is because your infrastructure is terrible.
Other people want to cycle.
Around here, there's snowbanks and all the bike infrastructure all winter, so you have to ride in the car.
Be a cycling friend.
Or they're not marked properly, so the car's just driving in them.
New bike commuters tend to make
Off and on all the time.
one of the reasons I started this channel.
Right now, they're full of like an inch of gravel.
Make the bike a bigger part of their life.
Not cool, Prince George.
And I actually ran into somebody in real life.
It's actually a little slippery. Now I'm an experienced cyclist. I'm commuting on a gravel bike right now when I ride around, but
always drop me a note. I'm happy.
not okay.
Thanks everyone.
The reason people don't use it is because you don't keep it usable and safe.
This is the Insta360 Go 2. It's really tiny, pretty lightweight, and I'm going to try to get some good shots today, while also setting a personal record of a segment in Griffith Park.
Whew. What a mess.
Insta360 sent me this after seeing my Insta360 One X2 video, which is interesting because it wasn't particularly flattering. Most of my concerns revolved around post-processing and image quality. Props to them for sending it, and I have to say Sam, my contact there, has been super helpful, very willing to answer questions, and when I told him I could not make a video for a month or so because I was getting married and I was going on a honeymoon, super chill about it. So thanks, Sam, and thank you, Insta360. I'm really looking forward to trying this thing out, especially based on how tiny it is. I think the main advantage of this is going to be convenience. This whole system, you have the camera, you have the case which charges it, and also acts as a tripod, which is kind of cool. All of that fits up really easily and can fit in your jersey pocket. It's going to be super easy to carry around and get some good shots with. Question is, will the shots look good? To aid in all of this, Insta360 gave me a bunch of
Maybe that's my next camera.
things for hooking up to your helmet. There's a
I have a GoPro here at 10 now, if we're looking at the stream off it.
I want to just use what comes
I
in
use
the
it
base box.
for the bike videos to do.
The camera, this funky little pendant bling. This thing just, you know, you put it under your jersey or whatever, and then it's magnetized, which I think is pretty cool. I'm a little worried about the camera angle. I think like while you're leaning down on your bike, the angle is probably gonna be looking more at your bike computer than your horizon. So we'll see. I'll test that out. To fix that, I have another idea for how to mount this to my helmet using only what comes in the box. But we'll save that for later.
All right, we're outside. Hopefully this looks good. There's no monitor, so I have no idea how it's looking. Every single shot that I take outside today is going to be on this, the Insta360 Go 2. So again, hopefully it looks good. Right now, I'm on my way to one of my favorite climbs. Last week, I signed up for some coaching from Cam Nichols, head of the RCA and fellow YouTuber, much better YouTuber than I am. He's gonna help me get in the best cycling shape I've ever been in. So far, he's already had me do an FTP test, a cardio drift test, and today I'm doing a benchmark climb. All of those things to kind of set my baseline, see how I'm doing, and we can see what sweet gains I get over the next 12 weeks. So, on my way to the segment, it's halfway up the mountain, so I'm going kind of slow, bottom of my zone 2, so I'm nice and fresh when I get there.
Dang it, no feather. Oh well.
All right, so we're at the start of the segment. It's on top of Trash Truck Hill. I got my notes.
No feather, and here we come to the climb.
Average grade of 5.7%. My previous fastest time was
The goal is to
but that was estimated
hold it on 3 watts, 3 to 3.2 watts per kilogram for the whole thing.
I looked at my power curve after Cam suggested that. Looks like my 5-minute power is a little above 300 watts. My 10-minute power is a little below. Since this is 8 minutes, I'm going to shoot for 320, and we'll see how it goes. Let's ride.
Try to pick off people on the way up.
All right, and we're off.
They should be able to do.
So while I ride this segment, let's talk a little bit about the helmet and how I mounted this thing, and would I recommend that or not? I'm just going to say right off the bat, don't do this. The reason is when you put this thing on, you can probably already see the issue. This thing, while it gives like a good point of view, the problem is it's kind of in front of your eyes. And to be honest, it wasn't so bad going uphill, but descending, pretty sketchy. So I don't recommend doing this. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move this a little bit up, a little higher. I found the little swivel action really handy. Like you can film your bike computer, you can film what's in front of you. If you're like leaned down, you can adjust it. If you're up, you know, lots of adjustability. And the fact that it's here and you're looking around, super helpful. One thing that wasn't good is just it's too low. Don't do that. All right, back to the segment. Let's see how I'm doing.
I don't know where the ending is. Somewhere over there. Let's keep going. I think that's it. What a mess. I don't even know if the camera was recording. The live segment, Strava Live segment, was it working? Well, gonna figure out my laps. I almost wiped out, but despite all that, I'm 99% confident I got the PR.
Was the wife complaining about coffee?
I did hit a personal best. However,
Why wasn't it ready?
320 watts.
I didn't touch it though. She didn't put it on.
I just barely missed it. This
From
is
the
just a
timer.
climb. So as I'm training with the Road Cycling Academy, I can see, you know, how much I've improved over time. But that's not why you're watching this video. You're watching it because you're wondering about this camera. I just finished downloading and transcoding all of the footage, so you're really getting my first impressions. Keep all of that in mind. How do I feel about the footage? So far, it looks to be on par with the Insta360 One X2. Today got a little bonus boost because air quality in LA is horrendous, and there was a beautiful fog/smog everywhere, which makes for really pretty cinematic shots. And this thing held up in all of that. I think this is right on that line between being super convenient, super portable, and having good image quality. I still feel like the GoPro has a little bit better image quality. However, look at the size difference. The portability on this thing is insane. To just be riding along and knowing if I saw something, all I had to do was do that. I'm recording now. Super easy, and it's super lightweight. And it comes with a tripod, which is pretty convenient. Now I have 2 little cameras. One is tiny, one is little. What am I gonna do? This thing, I think I'm gonna bring on my training rides now. There's no reason not to. Look how small it is. When I'm working on a bigger video that I want to be a little more cinematic, maybe grab the GoPro. But my guess is I'm gonna be grabbing this a lot more than the GoPro, at least for training rides and everyday rides. And it makes me feel a little more confident that if I see something that'll make a good video, I'll have a camera on me to capture it. And that's pretty cool. Bike fits. We all need them, but they're expensive, right? And I spent a ton of money on a new bike last November, but because of supply chain issues, I didn't necessarily get the bike that was the right size for me. I just bought the one that was available. If you're a bike fitter, that probably made you cringe. There's gonna be more of that, so let's keep a tally. To add pressure to the situation, I was about to start training with my very first bike coach, Cam Nichols. Training looked intense. I had a new bike, about to start training.
My knee ached, my neck is sore.
I needed a bike fit. You have to like get an appointment. What if your appointment doesn't happen on time? Maybe I should just do the bike fit myself. Now, let's just skip over all of those excuses and my propensity to DIY things, not because it's the best solution, but because of my crippling social anxiety, and my ability to learn things quickly isn't really a reflection of how smart I am, but rather a coping mechanism I've developed to avoid uncomfortable situations. That's not important. What is important is what I found. It's perfect. Okay, that's not exactly what happened. I actually spent several days researching and reading through all of their articles, and I even emailed Justin, one of the founders, asking him a bunch of questions. He was super responsive and offered to let me try the pro plan for free. Hashtag YouTuber perks. Okay, that's not like a bike fitter cringe. I think that's more just like a universal cringe. Let's talk about my first fit. So I signed up, I entered all my info, and I did a flexibility test. I have this weird thing where I have very flexible hips, but inflexible hamstrings and calves. Not the point of this video. What is the point, they had a nice mobility assessment that incorporated all that info, plus the bike that I was fitting, and how aggressive I wanted my position to be. So my VeloFit took all of that information, and then combined with a video I shot on my phone, it computed a suggestion. And the results were a little surprising. My first recommendation looked pretty good. In fact, it was almost perfect. So, maybe I didn't need a bike fit after all. It's obviously not optimized. And up at the top, you can see they give suggestions. They said, raise your saddle 10 mil, pull it back 5 mil. And I figure I'm here to get the bike fit, so let's try it out.
Round 2 done. It's now telling me to raise my saddle another 5 mil and reduce my handlebar reach by 10. Raising the saddle easy. Reducing the reach, I need a new stem.
Luckily, I have a shorter stem. Before all of this, I watched a bunch of bike fit videos on YouTube, and based solely on those videos, I went out and bought a 100mm stem to replace my 110mm stem. Did I know if I needed that stem? No. I just made a guess because it seemed like in every bike fit video they give a shorter stem, so I bought one. But look who was right. So I put the shorter stem on, and I also bought some narrower handlebars based solely on YouTube video recommendations. In my defense, I have pretty narrow shoulders. I did measure my shoulders first to make sure that it was legit, and I went from 42cm handlebars down to 38cm handlebars. And while we're talking about completely unfounded purchases that were made because of Bike Fit YouTube, I bought some orthopedic insoles as well. So at this point, I had done exactly the opposite of isolating the variables and testing one at a time. Instead, I just sent a smorgasbord of new options and put them all on my bike, and then tested it.
Okay, so, as might be expected, changing a bunch of stuff messed up everything. I pretty much have to change every single thing.
Remember, I started at this point, and I ended up here. This is not the way to use this program, but I'm stubborn. And speaking of stubborn, there's something else I haven't told you yet. I had a secret agenda. I wanted to slam my stem. I really wanted to slam the stem. I was gonna slam that stem, even if it meant ending up with a bad bike fit. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that. But what I would do is go through as many iterations as possible until I found a bike fit that worked, and I gotta slam the stem. 20. It took 20 iterations. Luckily, you don't get charged for each time you run through the program. You pay a fee for like the full year and you get unlimited fits. It's pretty awesome. But I got there. It wasn't perfect. There were still a few suggestions, but hear me out. I was mostly in the ranges, and more importantly, my stem was, I was comfortable on the bike. I was comfortable. Take that, bike fitters. Now that I had the fit, training could begin. The true measure of a bike fit, I guess, is not what it's like for 1 hour on the day of the fit, but rather what it's like during the days and hundreds of miles after the fit. So I locked it in, and then I rode. I put over 1,000 miles on my bike in that position from December through the middle of January. And during that time, 2 important things happened. Unfortunately, I only captured those 2 things in vertical video, so we're gonna have to deal with that for a moment. First off, over time, I could not stand the look of the chimney on my bike. The chimney is the portion of the fork that extends above the stem when you've slammed the stem. Yes, I know you're tired of hearing about the stem being slammed. I cut that chimney off. Have you ever done a thing and didn't realize how dangerous it was until it was over? That was, yeah. I had a friend text me and basically say like, whoa, dude, I can't believe you did that. And then I was like, oh yeah, I can't believe I did that. Cutting off the chimney obviously like limits my bike fit options and my resale value. Anyway, I ended up buying a new stem that allows for a little bit of extra flexibility, and it looks good too. It's the NV Aero stem. Because of the way it's built, they let you move the stem forward or backward a bit. You can change the angle, all while still looking super good. Now, I don't even want to talk about what it was like routing the cables through the handlebars after I put on that new stem, so I'm not going to. The second thing that happened during those first 1,000 miles on that bike fit was a 5-hour indoor training ride. It was just as fun as it sounds. Originally, it was supposed to be a New Year's Day, like outside ride, but my Wahoo head unit was in for repairs, so I had no way of recording my outdoor rides. And because if it doesn't happen on Strava, it didn't happen at all, I decided I was gonna ride indoors so I could record it. 4 hours into the ride, my butt was not feeling great. Just to say that. I had to stand up like every 10 minutes, pain, pressure points right on my sit bones. I immediately started looking for a new saddle, and as I have mentioned in a previous video,
Has a nice cutout so I can one day have children.
it is important to me that my body parts work. So I ended up landing on one of the Physique 3D printed models, the Physique Antares, I think is how you say it, R3. Not the most premium, but again, I mean, it's pricey, but you got to do what you got to do to, you know, when it's important, it's important. I picked that one up because of YouTube again. What I learned is like you could sit in multiple points on this new saddle, whereas my old saddle, a short nose saddle, basically required you to sit in the same position the entire ride. So over a 5-hour ride, sitting in the same position, I mean, it doesn't matter how comfortable the saddle is or how dialed in your bike fit is, like there's going to be pain. And spoiler alert, with this new saddle, none of those problems. Have you been looking at my shirt and wondering where I got it from? It's from a company called Seaton. They make shirts, they send me a couple, they're super comfortable. I'm not sweating through them, which is a problem for me. They're made for hiking and things. And also, packaging is super sustainable too. I'm recycling it right now.
Still no feather, boo. I'll take this though and just use it right away.
Bike fit that I rode with for over 1,000 miles. And with the exception of the indoor trainer issues, no pain at all. Like my knees felt great, I was riding further and faster than I ever had before. I had no problems with the outdoor rides. I was feeling really good with it. But as I do, I had thrown a wrench in it because I had a new saddle and I had a new stem. So I needed a new fit. Luckily, as I mentioned before, you get unlimited fits for the year that you sign up with My Velo Fit. So all I had to do was open it up, set up my camera, get on my trainer, and voila! 3 iterations later, I had a perfect fit. Look at this, no suggestions. All in the green up top, and only slightly out of range with knee extension and flexion. But you know, those ranges are really just recommendations, right? By the way, if you're a bike fitter, let me know how accurate this cringe counter has been. The reality is, I have a short torso and very long legs. Not everybody lines up perfectly in these ranges, and they really are more of guidelines. You gotta do what works for you. That fit was 500 miles ago, and I feel fantastic. Did it make me faster? Well, that's kind of complicated because I was in the middle of a training program. But what I can tell you is, it feels dialed in. I'm super comfortable on the bike, at least as comfortable as you can be on a bike when you're, you know, doing long rides or VO2 max efforts and you're really pushing everything. Like that's a different kind of pain. The pain as in like, oh, my knees hurt, like that doesn't exist. My back doesn't hurt. Like everything feels really good. Long story short, I'm super pleased with it. Like I love the ability to kind of tinker with it over time. I think that's a great selling point. They do also have the option to have your like fit reviewed by an expert if you want to just like futz around with things because you're slightly afraid of people, and if like you can do that too. Yeah, I should probably do the expert review. If you want to try it out, there's a link in the description. I do get a kickback if you use that link in the description. So please use that link in the description. There's also a free version and you can try that out. It's a really good deal. $75, unlimited fits. You can use it on multiple bikes. Like if you have a Peloton or a mountain bike, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. I'm biased, but it's a no-brainer. Next video is about training with a bike coach. In the meantime, you can watch this video about why I love my bike so much, or you could, you know, go outside and ride your bike. Look what I got this week. Hey y'all, my name is Mitch. I used to make printing videos, now I make cycling videos. I know, it's a weird pivot. As part of that, I picked this little guy up, the Insta360-1X2. I took it on a ride on Saturday. I'm gonna show you that footage and all the different camera angles that I tried. I'll also talk about how it works, things I liked, things I didn't like, some tips and tricks that I've learned to get the best footage possible. I should warn you though, I'll probably be a little biased because when this was on my bike the other day, I got my very first KOM ever on Strava. So I guess that answers the age-old cycling question, is it aero? This is the Insta360-1X2. It's the second generation of their first non-modular 360 camera. That's a mouthful. So I'm just gonna talk basics of how it works. Unlike, say, a GoPro that has one sensor, one camera.
Trying to keep the cadence
this thing has 2 lenses, 2
way
sensors,
up.
2 cameras. The lens on this side
just to offload the muscles.
here, and the lens on this side takes a picture of
Keep it on the cardio system. See, my heart rate's not very high yet.
Projects that onto a
So,
globe, and then you can look all over the globe and pick the picture that you want to use. As cool as that is, you may be wondering, why did I get this camera for cycling, especially if I already have a GoPro? It turns out if you take this camera and a selfie stick and you put the camera on the selfie stick, as you do, and extend that selfie stick, because this lens overlaps a little bit with this lens, the space between the two disappears. That means you can get shots like this without needing a friend to hold the camera. For my very simple test, I tried 6 different angles. One behind the bike but down by the wheel, one behind the bike and off to the left, one in front of the bike. This is really weird, blessing the camera with all these hand movements. One in front of the bike, one in the front down by the wheel, and then one in front off to the left. This will all make a lot more sense when you see the angles, so let's see the angles. First up, behind the bike. This one was probably the most obvious to me. It made a lot of sense. Like, why don't you just put it behind the bike? It's like somebody's following you. In theory, it makes a lot of sense. In practice, don't love this angle so much. It's a little jumpy, and basically just like my butt is in the center of the frame, right in the middle. So, not ideal. The good thing about this angle, though, is I did get the KOM. It was completely an accident, not because I'm the kind of person that gets KOMs by accident. This was my very first one, and I'm very, very excited about it. That's why I'm bringing it up a second time in this video. What happened was, I knew the camera was on there, and so I was riding as fast as I could. I wanted to make y'all think I'm stronger than I am. And the result was, I rode up that hill faster than anybody else had, and I got a KOM. I'm gonna take that win. So the next angle, I took the selfie stick and kind of twisted it off to the right and put it down so it's over by the rear derailleur and cassette. As you can see, the wheel is kind of messed up. It looks almost like somebody cut the wheel in half and then stitched it together. I guess that is exactly what happened. That doesn't happen every time. You kind of have to like mess with angles and learn, you know, which angle, where do you have to angle the camera to minimize those kinds of stitching errors. But the shot looks really cool. It's low to the ground, makes it feel really fast. I guess it's a good shot if you want to like get new wheels or something and you want to show them off. I like this angle. For the next angle, I sent the selfie stick off to the left, so it's still attached to the seat post. It's about the same height as the top tube on the bike, but it's basically just sticking like almost straight out to the left. This shot looks really cool, but it tends to be super wobbly, I've found. And it makes sense. I mean, you're basically taking a selfie stick and then you're riding on bumpy LA tarmac. You know, of course it's gonna look wobbly. So if you're on really smooth tarmac, if you have a super smooth pedal stroke, I imagine you wouldn't be as wobbly as this, but that is something to look out for. Out front, it was the one I was the most excited about. I thought this would be great. Like if I could just put like a selfie stick on my bike here and turn it into a unicorn. If I just put the selfie stick here and the camera here, then I can ride, you know, both hands on the wheel. I don't have to hold the GoPro out like while I'm riding. In reality, it just didn't look the way that I wanted it to look. I tried a couple different angles, like I moved the selfie stick up and down. Again, it looks cool. I don't know if it's good for a segment like this where I'm talking to you. I think it'll be better for action shots, but I'm gonna try again. Like if I can get that angle to work, like, oof, I will use it every single video. The penultimate angle that I used was front of the wheel and then down a bit. I like this angle. It's low to the ground, it feels really fast. Again, it's a great way to show off your tires. It just feels kind of unique. As cool as it is though, it's not as cool as the next one, the last one, which was my favorite. I took the selfie stick, I attached it to my drop bars, and I sent it like way out to the left. And the cool thing about this is you can get the full bike and rider, I guess, without a lot of distortion, and it looks really cool on turns. Let me show you this. So here's a map. I'm going through like this little set of turns, and here's what it looks like on camera. That was my favorite angle, and I thought it looked pretty cool. But really what makes these all look cool is when you put them all together in a sequence. But before I show you the sequence, do me a solid, hit the like button. And as a thank you, here's a picture of my adorable dog. So, now that I've had it for one full week, what do I think of the Insta360 One X2? Let's start with the bad, because it's not all good. There are some things that I don't love about it. Image quality. It's not great. And I'm not just talking about resolution. We'll talk about that in a second. But the color science, like GoPro's color science is way better than Insta360's color science. The colors I can get out of here are like amazing. The colors I get out of here are like, you know, they're good. Disclaimer on that. I'm a designer. I've worked as a printer, as a retoucher. Like colors are super important to me. I may just be nitpicking here. The second thing I don't love about it is not unique to the Insta360 camera. It happens to all 360 cameras, and that's stitching errors. It is annoying to have a shot set up, and then when you look at it later, you realize there's a stitching error that cuts your wheel right in half. I imagine I'll get better at making sure to avoid those situations, and one day the technology will get better where you don't have to worry about that. The third thing that I'll complain a little bit about, it is super bumpy on a bike. Now, granted, a lot of that may be the fact that LA roads, especially in my neighborhood, are terrible. I mean, you saw the footage. I guess I was just hoping that it was magically perfect and looked like it was another person filming. It's again, like it's a selfie stick and it's going like this on the road. It's gonna be bumpy. It's amazing it looks as smooth as it does. So those are kind of my complaints about it. But there are a lot of things that I do really love about this. For example, you can get really fun camera angles. Related to that is my next point, which is you can kind of like fix it in post with this camera, which is crazy. Because it takes the images and projects them on a sphere, you can reframe things and move the camera around and do literal camera movements after the fact. When I'm riding with the GoPro or like the mirrorless camera, part of my mind is always thinking about framing. Probably isn't the safest thing to be doing while you're riding a bike, right? Like I'm holding the camera, I'm riding the bike, but part of my brain is thinking like, oh, is this like level? Is it lined up? And GoPro has a lot of cool things like auto leveling, makes it a little easier, but I can just kind of stick this anywhere I want. In the back of my head, at least, there's this like relief that I can probably still get like a good shot in there, even if it isn't the shot that I expected. And that's nice not only for knowing that I'll get the shot, but then it turns a bike ride that's a shoot back into more of a bike ride. There's a difference. Like I still have to go on rides where I'm not shooting just so I can like enjoy the ride. Shooting a bike ride is work. This makes it a little less work. Oh, and I almost forgot, the battery life on this, insane. I rode around for like an hour and a half, recorded pretty much the entire time, and the battery still had plenty of charge left. The GoPro's batteries I thought were like awesome. Somehow this is even more awesome. It does have quite a few little like quirks. You really have to work. So I thought I'd share a couple tips that I've learned to get the best possible footage out of this thing. Disclaimer, I've only had it for a week. Very early learnings. First tip, stay wide. This camera does have a 5.7K resolution, but it comes with a pretty big but. That resolution is achieved by stitching those two cameras together, projected on a globe, right? So what happens in post is you pick which area of the globe you're gonna look at. So the globe has a resolution of 5.7K, but the little like postage stamp area that you're looking at doesn't. And if you make that area really small, you're not even getting HD. You're not even getting 720p. Like you're going back in SD land. So what you want to do is pick an area in the globe that's as wide as possible, because then you're going to get more resolution. I was hoping that I'd be able to like zoom in on little portions. The footage just kind of falls apart. I hope it's a lot better in future models. I assume it will be. Just the fact that you can move around is really cool. But for now, I definitely recommend like stay wide with your shots. Second tip that I've learned this week is do not drop the exposure compensation. When I'm shooting with the GoPro, I drop the footage by a full stop. So for you non-camera nerds out there, you make the whole image darker. And the reason why you do that, the sky, especially when you're riding in the middle of the day, super bright, and the rest of your image could be dark. That's why sometimes you'll get pictures where like the sky is blown out to white. So by dropping it by full stop, you usually save the blue in the sky, at least with the GoPro. And the GoPro does an awesome job of doing that. Since this is also an action camera, I thought, okay, I'll do that. It doesn't hold up. This camera does not do well in low light. In the shadows, it struggles. And then if you drop it down by stop, it struggles even more. For now, I'm gonna keep the exposure compensation just level at 0, and it pains my heart, but I'm gonna let the sky blow out. I come from a background of image manipulation and optimization, and so I may just be nitpicking here, but yeah, don't drop the exposure compensation. Tip 3. Maybe controversial. I'm going against the big reason why a lot of people like this camera. Do not use the mobile app. Use the desktop app. With the caveat, only do this if you care about image quality. The app itself, really intuitive. You can do some really cool things. The desktop app, and I say this as a product designer, the desktop app is horrendous, but you can get much better footage quality out of the desktop app. Again, we're going to video nerd land here, but on the phone, you can only export a compressed H.264 file. On the desktop app, you can export ProRes 422. Let me explain what that means to those of you who are not super nerds like me. This camera produces a video, but that video is compressed to save file size. That compressed video, if you edit it on the phone, is compressed again. The compression both times is pretty substantial. On the desktop app, the video you get out of the camera is still compressed, you can't change that, but the compression out of the app on the desktop is slightly less. It's not quite lossless, but it's ProRes 422. If you know about video codecs, it's really pretty, let me just show you the footage, and then you'll see what I mean. So that's tip 3. If you're a nerd like me, you're gonna wanna use the desktop app. I was really hoping that this could be my one camera on the ride, but the image quality just isn't there yet. I am hopeful for the future, but for now, I'm gonna have to bring both cameras. They both have a place in my toolbox, but my toolbox right now is my jersey pockets, and they're about to explode. I guess that means I'm gonna have to get a bar bag. What do you all use for storage on your rides, especially on your long rides? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you thought of the Insta360 One X2. While you're there, if you haven't already, give this video a like. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. David here with two of the most
We're holding on pretty good so far. 3.2, 3.3.
one from Physique, and one from Specialized.
Not trying to blow it out. Trying to keep it consistent the whole way up. And blow it out for the last corner or something.
Saddles after several months of riding. So let's dive in. These are two of the main contenders in the 3D printed saddle market. So we have the Physique Antares versus Evo R1 adaptive saddle here. This one with carbon rails retails for £299. There is a version with alloy rails for £250 available. And then we had the brand new Specialized S-Works Roman Evo Mirror, which retails for £390 with full carbon rails. Now, Specialized did launch a power version of this design about 2 years ago, and I did review that, and I'll put a link to that review down below. But this is brand new, and this is really relevant because the saddles are very similar, as you can see. Very similar length and very similar width as well, so it's worth really comparing these two saddles, because if you're looking at this one, or this one, you're probably looking at the other as well. When it comes to measurements, they are very similar. The Physique is 274mm long, while the Specialized is a tad shorter at 260mm. They both come in two width versions, and these are both the wider versions, 149 for the Physique and 143 for the Specialized, so very, very similar. The saddles do look very, very similar, don't they? And that's no surprise, because they are made by the same US company called Carbon. This Silicon Valley-based company has developed their own 3D printed technology, and watching the printers in action is like watching something out of a sci-fi movie. Quite incredible to watch. So the company uses a special polymer material that's printed layer by layer, and the benefit is you can create really complex honeycomb or lattice structures, as you can see, which you couldn't do with foam or gel. The big advantage over foam or gel is you can customize this lattice or honeycomb structure to have it softer or firmer where you need more or less support in the saddle. It's a really complex looking saddle as well. And Specialized actually claims 22,000 struts and 10,700 nodes in the construction of this new saddle, which is quite staggering. And no, I haven't counted to verify them. I'll probably be here all day if I did count them. And that construction process gives two saddles that look very similar, but there are some key differences. And the first one you can see is the cutout or the channel down the middle of the saddle. Here on the Physique, it's a very distinctive, quite deep channel, but with the base exposed, there's no hole in the bottom of the saddle there. So very distinctive looking saddle, basically two halves joined onto a base. While on the Specialized, it's very different because you have the webbing going across the saddle, but with a shallower, softer channel down the middle, and then the base has a hole in the middle for the 3D structure to kind of poke through if you push it hard enough. So a complete covering of that special lattice material. So the weight on the scales for both these saddles isn't amazing for the money. It's not that good really. But you're not really buying these saddles for the weight. There are lighter saddles that use a different construction, like a full carbon fiber construction. But these are all about comfort. So let's talk about comfort of these saddles. So as I mentioned in my intro, I've been riding these saddles for the last couple of months, and I've just come back from a week in Nice where I was using this new Specialized saddle. And the main thing for me, the real noticeable difference when I put either saddle on my bike compared to a normal foam or gel saddle, is that at first it feels very soft and squidgy, and it's that kind of soft, flat rear tyre feeling at first, but that soon fades away, and you're left with this immense feeling of comfort and support, which lasts really a long way into a long ride, much further than a normal saddle in my experience. And a week riding in Nice, 7 days on the bike, I'll normally expect some discomfort 2 or 3 days after being on the bike every day. But with this saddle, I had no discomfort at all. I didn't even have to reach for any chamois cream to make sure I was comfortable on the bike day in and day out. So comfort is noticeable straight away when you first put it on compared to a normal saddle, and it's that level of support that doesn't diminish or fade away after 4 hours, 6 hours, or 5 days on the bike. That really does stand these saddles out compared to more conventional saddles.
Oh, there we go, we're back. I lost connection again for a second. No!
So it really is another layer of comfort in my experience compared to regular foam saddles. But are these saddles any comfier than regular foam saddles using the same shape and design? And that's a tough question to answer, and if one I'll be going back and forth on trying to decide where I am on the comfort of these compared to normal saddles in making this video. And I think the answer is yes, they are comfier than regular saddles. And for me, by a noticeable margin. It's not a game changer, it's not a night and day difference, but for me, I can definitely feel and appreciate the difference this technology brings to saddle comfort. Now, it's really tricky recommending saddles and choosing saddles because what works for me might not work for you. And while the technology is definitely very impressive and definitely moves comfort to another level, what's really important is shape, the width and length, and whether that works for you or not. And there are loads of different shapes on the market for that reason. But if you're having problems with your current saddle, this technology might be a way to alleviate those issues. But if you're fine with your current saddle, you might not see any reason to upgrade. I've also been wondering whether these are worth the quite high price tag they command. And I know going back to a normal saddle on a test bike tomorrow, I'll be just fine on that bike. I won't have any comfort issues because I know what saddle works for me, and I'm fairly flexible when it comes to being on different bikes, different saddles, over years of testing bikes.
Second dropout, boo.
Generally, I'm pretty good on most saddle shapes. But I know riding that normal saddle tomorrow on a test bike, at the back of my mind, I wish I was on one of these because the comfort is that much better. The other added benefit of this design, in my experience on my local quite rough roads, is how they offer extra cushioning and extra suspension for dealing with rough roads. And they definitely have a bit more give and they bounce back better than a foam saddle. What foam saddles tend to do sometimes is kind of pack down, but these don't pack down, they sort of let you squish down a bit, they hold you on that cushion of air, and there's quite a bit of rebound. And this one is actually tuned so it's softer at the back, firmer along the middle. So the cushioning effect from these saddles is fantastic. So it's not only the way your sit bones and your body sat on the saddle, but it's how it's helping to cushion out rough roads and give you a smooth ride. So that's another less advertised benefit of this 3D printed technology design. But are they worth the money? And I guess, would I buy one of these saddles with my own hard-earned money? That's a really tough question. I mean, they are a stonking load of cash. And while I love the comfort they offer, and I definitely appreciate the extra comfort over a normal saddle, and I love the looks of them, it's still a lot of money. It really is a lot of money. I just bought a brand new transporter, so I'm skint. But while these are definitely the bleeding edge of saddle design right now, as for most things, the prices will come down. These are already discounted on Finished own website, and I'm sure Specialized, as Specialized always does, will try to bring this down to a lower price point. So if we get a saddle at 200, 250 maybe, then I think I'll put my hand in my pocket and buy one. But £400, I'm not sure whether it offers enough benefit over a normal saddle for me to take the plunge. But at half price, yeah, then we're talking. I've had loads of questions asking what these saddles are like to clean and keep the mud out, and don't they fill up with mud? But here's the thing with holes, the mud goes in, then the mud comes out again. So you don't actually fill up with mud when you are riding on roads covered in mud or riding in the rain. So they stay clean. As you can see, after 7 months of riding, they're both very clean, very fresh. And when you wash a bike, you blast it with a hose pipe and any mud or dirt in there just washes out. So keeping them clean is fine, not a problem at all. And a question on durability. As you can see, after several months of riding and several thousand kilometers,
oh, I disconnect again. Or disconnected, no! Keep going. That's super annoying. Feels like it's happening again. And we're back. Oh, it's do it even harder if all these spikes low.
But it's very, very close. I'm very happy on both saddles. I think for me, it comes down to the channel. We have a softer, smoother channel on the Specialized with more cushioning there because it's got that cutout in the bottom where you have quite hard edges. And you don't really notice the hard edges, but I prefer the smoother, softer edges on the Specialized. And that really is the main difference between the two saddles. Right, there we are then. My review of two bleeding edge, cutting edge, 3D printed technology saddles and my thoughts on riding them for the last couple of months. If you've got any questions that I haven't answered, do put them down below. I'm happy to help as best I can. And do let me know what saddle you're currently using and if you're in the market for a new saddle and what you're looking for in a new saddle. More comfort, customization, weight, I'd love to hear from you as always. But that's all for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all again very soon.
What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Welcome to our 2022 Calpe training camp. So the response to the last video with the new bike was incredible. I tried to go through all the comments, but there's literally so many. So I've replied to as many as I can. So thank you for your comments and your feedback on the new bike. But yeah, we're now in Calpe. Before we continue, I just want to say I allowed the haircut. It was getting out of control. So I headed into town, visited the local Turkish barber, and he absolutely butchered it. Been here for about a week now, and the training so far has pretty much consisted of a lot of volume. I think over the last 7 days we've done about 27 hours. As usual, all of my training is on Strava, so you can go over there and check it out if you want to. But we've also been doing a lot of race simulation stuff and high intensity stuff as well, because we are kind of coming into March now. Actually, we are in March, and the season is just around the corner. So a lot of the guys, we're getting ready for races. racing. We're just doing a few finishing touches, working on high intensity stuff. So we've got a couple of days left of camp now, and today the plan is we're going to head out to a local climb called Tobena. Today we're doing a 20-minute power test, all out, full gas, time trial effort at 10-second intervals on a climb about 20k into the mountains. We're going to have a bit of a warm-up period, and then we're going to do this max effort. I mean, it'll be interesting. I've not done a 20-minute effort for a while. I guess it's for the team to kind of see where we're all at in terms of our like numbers and threshold and stuff. So this year it's probably been like the biggest shake-up since the team started. There's a lot of new guys, but I'm feeling positive about it. Everyone's going really well. Everyone's seeming to be getting on nicely. So I think this year is going to be a decent team. And the bikes are feeling mega. They're so fast. And then personally, I think I'm going all right. I'm definitely not at 100%, but I'm also not too bad either. So I'm kind of there or thereabouts where I want to be. But today's going to be a bit of a test. I'm setting off in like sort of mid-pack as well. So there's guys in front of me, guys behind me. Red, one of the new guys. How are you finding things so far in the team?
Not too bad. It's a nice team environment. Like good set of lads.
Yeah.
And, we're getting good group of training. Yeah, got a power test today. Feeling a bit in the legs. Solid week, but.
Are you nervous for the power test? Because I am.
I normally would be, but my power meter's just chatting absolute over. So, I'm not gonna. It's not possible for me to stay on TV. So.
Mate, I might say my power meter's broken as well.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good Gouter gel free card.
I'm just out to cause havoc, you know. Maybe form a big group of whoppers. Stay away from the tiny skinny lads.
Get the Gruppetta going at the back.
exactly. Gruppetta on the FTP test.
So originally we're going to do about an hour or two loop beforehand to warm up a little bit. However, there's a chance of rain this afternoon in the forecast, so we're just going to head out straight to the climb, get the effort done, and then if it's dry, do a little bit of a loop this afternoon. We had a day off yesterday, Matt. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, mega, mate. Ready to absolutely cane it.
Yeah. Are you someone that likes doing these power tests or not?
Back in the day,
yeah.
However, been surrounded by a number of weapons this camp, so a good 20 for me is half a squad sweet spot.
yeah. I mean, I'm in the same boat, so.
See how we go.
We made it to the climb of Tobena. We're about to start our efforts. See how we go.
Dry, oh my, we could do the trap or the rap or the lo-fi. Had to cut my old ones off, too much soul ties. Takes the time heals, we gon' see when it go by. Shampoo the bed, then I hit it with a blow dry. When I come back, I'm like MJ with a 4-5. Conscious in the cut, and you know that's the road guy. If they go low, thumbs up, we gon' go high. Yeah, it's up, then it's stuck.
Hello. Yeah, it was alright, pretty grim though.
Were you happy with it?
20 minutes is never nice, but yeah, now like in comparison to past test, it's good. It was about 500 and. No, yeah. It was over 400, so happy days.
How'd they go for you, Zeb? I feel like you're one of the fastest up there, probably, right?
Yeah, I think me and Stu were up at a similar time. He did significantly less power, like fairly all in. So.
You're gonna share your numbers with the people?
I think I hit 450 to 20.
Wow.
That makes people happy. Then there's no more.
That's a few more watts than what I did. That 20-minute effort there was awful. There's no other way to describe it. It was awful.
I wasn't designed for stuff like this, man. I go up to 3 minutes. That's it, no more.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest, it wouldn't take a lot for me to cry right now. I was not a fan of that at all.
Okay, so to not make Red cry, check out his YouTube channel. For those of you that don't know, he makes some videos himself. I'll leave the link to his channel in the description. But yeah, we're going to do about another hour, 2 hours now. We had a bit of a longer day planned, but it looks like it's going to.
No!
Clouds are moving in behind us, as you can see. So
oh, disconnects again.
In the mountains.
Boo!
So I think we're going to head down to the coast. And there it is, the rain. Riding in the rain in Spain is a lot different to the UK. Because it barely rains here, the roads are so slippy when it does rain because they're full of oil and dirt, making roundabouts feel like ice rinks. Mate, it's so sketchy. Can I ask you a question, Ollie?
Go on then.
What were you thinking wearing white socks on a day like today?
Well, I thought coming to Spain, it might be alright, but should have stayed at home really.
They are ruined, mate.
Yeah. Wait. It lasted a solid 2 rides.
Oh, mate. What a day. So we are back in the UK now. Sadly, the final day of camp was another unplanned rest day due to the weather. Turns out it was better weather in Lancashire than it was in Spain. I had every intention to film more content from the camp, however, sadly, I forgot to bring my cameras with me and was only able to get hold of them on the penultimate day when someone else who was traveling to Spain was able to bring my cameras with them. I know, rookie. In terms of numbers, I'm going to post the Strava data on the screen right now. Feel free to pause and have a look. This is the closest segment to get everyone's numbers in, as some people went further up the mountain, or in my case, not quite as far. I think Stuart was the fastest or had the best power to weight, closely followed by Zeb. Me, I was a little bit off the pace, so I've got some work to do. But hey, race season starts on Sunday. So I'll see you then. Yeah, I get my pop on. If she needs some good, tell her she got hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one, but Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my.
A movie based on a popular toy line is a rite of passage for every generation of kids, and for the executives in charge of maintaining that brand. Refresh all the consumables so the sales cycle can continue while giving kids a taste of the real world as they watch their heroes achieve modern artistic legitimacy that simultaneously destroys their childhood. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
It's like my same setup as normal. Today we're having tons of disconnects.
Get your free information
Am I overheating this thing?
Bosley gift card today.
Like the cheapest Tacx flow.
Restoration expert with more than 45 years of experience.
Boo. Boo.
Millions of men and women come to Bosley for their answers to their hair loss and hair restoration questions. Bosley offers the latest hair restoration technology and one-day procedures for both surgical and non-surgical solutions. Whether you're just starting research or you've been thinking about making a change for a while, Bosley has the solution. Bosley offers a free information kit, everything you want to know about hair loss and hair restoration options. Bosley has more than 70 locations across the US, but can also deliver solutions straight to your doorstep. They offer free in-person and video consultations. Find out what solution is right for you by visiting bosley.com. The sooner you take action, the more options you have. Learn how you can get a fuller, thicker head of hair by going to bosley.com/toygalaxy, or click the link below to get your free information kit and a $250 off Bosley gift card. You can get a free cost estimate and find the right solution for you. That's bosley.com/toygalaxy, and thank you again to Bosley. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie was released on June 30th, 1995, just 2 years after the premiere of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers television show on Fox Kids in the US. The movie served as a transition not only for the narrative of the story in their world, but also for the brand in our world, from a franchise with box office aspirations to a franchise with box office regrets. Angel Grove, a bustling California metropolis, is home to Earth's most powerful superheroes, the Power Rangers. 6 teenagers handpicked by the noble Zordon for their talents, their compassion, and most importantly, their attitude. It is in this otherwise normal city that an ancient artifact is accidentally unearthed by construction workers, a giant foreboding egg that is immediately hatched by regular series villains Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed. A new nemesis, Ivan Ooze, is released from a 6,000-year imprisonment, having been trapped there by the same Zordon responsible for the creation of the Power Rangers. With revenge at the top of his list, Ivan replaces Lord Zed and Rita as top bad guy, accomplishing precisely what they had not been able to accomplish in the years before: destroy the Power Rangers command center, defeat Zordon, take away the Rangers' powers, and cast them deep into space. Now the Power Rangers must take on a new adventure, travel to a strange new world, meet new people, and fight monsters to acquire an even greater power. Time is running out to defeat Ivan Ooze, to save Zordon, to save Angel Grove, to save the world. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers first aired in August of 1993, produced by Saban Entertainment for Fox Kids Television. It utilized a familiar process, licensing a previously existing Japanese television series, then taking steps to localize it for broadcast in the US as though it were a wholly original production. Using action scenes from the 1992 Toei Super Sentai series Kyoryu Sentai Ju Ranger, intercut with original footage featuring American actors and all new storylines, Saban and Fox scored a huge hit that moved billions of dollars in merchandise. After running out of Ju Ranger footage, Saban headed back to the well for Season 2 to get more action scenes, robots, monsters, and costumes from subsequent seasons of Super Sentai. Season 2 in 1994 replaced the Green Ranger and Zords from Ju Ranger with the White Ranger and Zords from 1993's Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger. This would become an annual process, as it had been in Japan since the late 70s, with each season resetting the themes and aesthetic of the narrative with the ultimate intent of driving more toy sales. Season 3 would do the same for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but this time that transition would take place at the movies instead of on television. The Power Rangers franchise had completely reshaped the children's television and merchandise market in just 2 years. It was time to see if that power could expand to the theater. The feature film was also a bold attempt by Saban to take an even greater degree of control over the Power Rangers franchise by creating the entire thing from scratch. No borrowed Toei footage, further establishing the Power Rangers as a unique American entity independent of Toei's Ju Ranger, costume and robot designs notwithstanding. A feature film seems like an obvious next step for a television franchise that was already so successful, but the problem started before a script was in hand. In a move that would have lasting implications for the series and the movie, Saban had taken the unusual cost-cutting measure of producing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from the beginning as a non-union show. This meant that it was cheaper to produce from a budgetary standpoint, but it also meant little protection and little pay for the cast. Some actors have said they were paid as little as minimum wage at the time and could have made more money working at McDonald's. 3 of the 5 original Rangers, Austin St. John as Red Ranger Jason, Tui Trang as Yellow Ranger Trini, and Walter Jones as Black Ranger Zach, decided that they weren't going to continue to be a part of the series without a renegotiated contract. Preferably one that included fair pay and more, considering that a feature film was going to be added to the production schedule. Their characters were written out of the series, and Saban was forced to recast for the TV series and subsequently the movie. Production officially began in 1994. On the day the new Rangers were cast, Steve Cardenas as the Red Ranger, Karen Ashley as the Yellow Ranger, and Johnny Young Bosch as the Black Ranger. They were told that they were also going to be appearing in the new movie that was going to start shooting immediately in Australia. Saban Entertainment, in conjunction with 20th Century Fox, enlisted producer Suzanne Todd and a team of writers to begin figuring out what a Power Rangers feature film would look like. Writer Arn Olson, who had developed a reputation for writing children's movies, submitted a pitch that they liked and wanted to build on. With his Power Rangers in space concept, he wrote a script that was ultimately passed over by Fox in favor of a script written by John Camps, which introduced the new villain Ivan Ooze. That said, elements from both drafts would make the final version, as Olson was brought back to clean up and smooth out the actual shooting script. The most important part of the script was that it reaches out beyond the expected characters and story of the show, and there are several obvious reasons for this. 1, new villains and new worlds means that you can do whatever you want with them. Set them up, tear them down, kill them all. Whatever happens to them can stay in the movie, whether it gets referred to again or not. 2, sell the toys. New characters, new villains, new weapons, new hero gear. That's what this is all about. New stuff, new toys, new bedsheets, new Tiger Electronics handheld games. Power Rangers, by the nature of its creation, was a Frankenstein entity made of parts and pieces of different productions. Scripts being written over previously existing footage, trying to make disparate elements seem like their juxtaposition was intentional. Over time, a narrative developed. More as a result of the limitations of the ingredients rather than a recipe set about from the beginning. There's nothing wrong with that per se. However, in this case, the impact on the movie was the extra degree of restriction it put on the production of the film, again, before it even had a script. Olsen wasn't given much of a choice but to introduce new characters and limit the development of the Rangers themselves because the television series was decreed to be the priority.
Olsen couldn't do anything that might conflict with the narrative that had already been written and shot for the series. Meanwhile, Steve Wang was initially recruited to direct. Wang had just directed Guyver Dark Hero, a movie that had a lot in common with the film they were looking to make, a Japanese comic book superhero wearing bio armor that looked like he could be a Power Rangers villain. Wang didn't stick around long, though, and was replaced by Brian Spicer, who wasn't technically working on his first film, but was going to be directing his first film. Spicer had plenty of television directing experience under his belt, including 21 episodes of Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Spicer had never technically watched Power Rangers, not that that was a requirement for directing a movie about them, but to be safe, Spicer did binge watch every episode up to that point to make sure that he had a feel for the aesthetics, the narrative movements, the mise-en-scène. Spicer wanted to bring a higher degree of emotion to his film. He wanted to be able to see the actors' faces as they ninja kicked a giant Birdman so hard it turns into a puddle of purple goo, which was good because the costume department was preparing a version of the suits with retractable visors and mouth plates that usually block the actors' face acting. Beyond the new helmets, the new suits were designed with a more substantial armored appearance. All the extra padding made them 30 to 40 pounds heavier than their television counterparts. After an initial round of shooting, Spicer and the rest of the production recognized just how terrible the helmets looked without their visors and mouth plates, how much more difficult it actually made the continuity between actors and stunt people, and decided that the best move was to go ahead and reshoot everything they had already shot. The story called for the Power Rangers to leave Earth in search of a great power, more powerful than the power that they already had as the Power Rangers. The quest brought them to the planet Phaedos, where they meet up with Dulcea, a great warrior from the tribe that helped battle against Ivan Ooze, imprisoning him in the egg so many years ago. Gabriella Fitzpatrick was cast as Dulcea. After an initial round of shooting, she was diagnosed with an ovarian cyst, something that caused her such extreme pain that she couldn't perform the role. And if you've ever seen the costume, it's not that easy to just swap in a stunt performer. So the part was recast with Mariska Hargitay, who you know today as Detective Olivia Benson on Law & Order SVU. Spicer and company decided that the best move was to go ahead and reshoot everything they had already shot involving Fitzpatrick as Dulcea. And look, movie making is a special thing. It can be magical when all the pieces come together, when everything meshes. They say you make a movie 3 times, once in the writing, once in the shooting, and once in the editing. The crew of Power Rangers wanted to see if they could beat that record.
Each has a gift. Each has a power. Each has a purpose. And together, they will face their greatest adventure. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. The power is on next summer.
The shoot that was supposed to run from October to December was up against its deadline. The production had been so delayed that they were not only going to have to stay in Australia past the holidays, but they were going to have to shoot some of the regular TV series in Australia, so that production didn't get behind schedule as well. That said, when they looked at the footage of Mariska Hargitay as Dulcea, a capable and brilliant actor, it just wasn't quite right. And as it turns out, Fitzpatrick had recovered over the holiday break and was available again, so Spicer and company decided that the best move was to go ahead and reshoot everything they had already shot with Mariska Hargitay as Dulcea, again with Fitzpatrick as Dulcea. As important as Dulcea is in the final film, helping the Power Rangers acquire the great power and thereby their new suits and Zords, saving Zordon, Angel Grove, and the world, she had a much bigger role in the original script. A more robust backstory, training montages, all kinds of stuff, so it makes sense that they wanted to get it right. It's only in hindsight that we can look at it and say that maybe there was a better way to have handled it. We are from the future, where everything seems obvious. The cast found themselves shooting the movie and the TV series at the same time, working around a series of production issues that could have broken the spirit of the entire team. Anthropomorphic rat creatures whose costumes were too simple for the final production had to be replaced with more complex monsters. Scenes that were added after the fact, and after Olsen, the original writer, had already moved on from the film. Ivan Ooze being changed midstream from a character whose main selling point was that he was a shapeshifter to just being a guy who played a spectrum of personalities, like a purple Robin Williams or a tokusatsu Jim Carrey. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie goes right for every 10-year-old kid's jugular, opening with a scene depicting the Power Rangers sky surfing because it's 1995 and the assumption was that everyone was going to be sky surfing in the future. It was going to change sports and redefine relationships. But it doesn't stop there. The sky surfing seamlessly transitions into inline skating, and the best any kid can do from there is just hold on, because it's a roller coaster of character introductions, monster makeovers, new Ranger powers, and all the cutting-edge computer-generated morphing the budget would allow. From Ivan himself to the Tengu warriors to the Temple Guardians on Phaedos. Presumably, one of the benefits of theming everything around Ooze was to take advantage of that morphing technology. That's the name of the thing. This movie should be constantly morphing mightily. That said, the CG on the giant monsters and the new Ninja Megazords looks like early animatics that were never finished. And I'm saying that as someone who sat in the theater and watched it on the day of release. The final Megazord isn't even on model. It doesn't match the toy or the show version from Kaku Ranger. Hard to know if this uber chrome low detail look is what they were intending or if they just ran out of money and time. Hard to know if practical visual effects might have fared better given that there is a scene where the Rangers fight a dragon skeleton accomplished with practical visual effects that looks better than all the CG combined. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie was released on June 30th, 1995. It made over $66 million worldwide against a budget of $15 million, which basic math would suggest was a success. It did make money, quite a bit of money. Reviews were mixed with critics on both sides, thinking of the children when it came to their reviews. Some said that it was fine. After all, it was just a kid's movie about toys. Others said it was terrible cinema. It's for kids who imagine that this is what it's like to be a cool teenager or a hip young adult, with a positive message that, no matter how extreme the activity, it's never too extreme to wear proper safety protection. Remember, kids, the first thing a hero protects is their knees and elbows. Up against movies like Disney's Pocahontas, Warner Brothers' Batman Forever, and Universal's Apollo 13, it came in fourth, making only $17 million its first weekend. Some saw it as a sign that the power of the Power Rangers was on the decline. Others saw it as a reflection of a production that didn't know what it was doing from the start. Saban and Fox saw it as a missed opportunity to do more creatively, to make more financially. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, the soundtrack has the power to satisfy a range of musical tastes. From the Red Hot Chili Peppers to Van Halen to Dan Hartman to Snaps, I Got the Power. There's something here for everyone. Like a 90s time capsule trapped in a giant egg for nearly 30 years. A lot of the merchandise released for Power Rangers the movie was previously existing merchandise with the Power Rangers the movie logo slapped on it. There were some original releases like the 8-inch scale Ivan Ooze and his 2 evil space aliens Scorpitan and Hornator. Previously existing figures like the 5-inch Automorph and Head Flip and Quick Change figures were re-released with modified sculpts that removed the Head Flip and feature. Re-releases of these superposable 8-inch figures all cast in CG like chrome. The Rangers' new giant combining robot, the Ninja Megazord, and Tommy's Falcon Zord were both released in the movie branded boxes, as well as non-posable collectible minifigures, a 2-pack of the pink and yellow Power Rangers girls with interchangeable outfits and hair that you can style. Finish the collection with the carrying case playset. McDonald's featured a Happy Meal promotional tie-in with 4-inch scale figures and vehicles with the Rangers and their new Ninja Zords. 7-Up ran a contest with 1,000 Power Rangers movie power packs with over $500 in new merchandise. $500? Jell-O featured the Rangers on their packaging. Fleer released a series of trading cards, and there was even a thing called an Ivan Ooze knuckle extruder. One push and Ivan's head oozes globs of grossness. Hey, don't blame me, I just work here. More recently, Hasbro, the current owner of the Power Rangers franchise, has released Tenga Warriors and the Rangers in their ninja outfits, featured both in the movie and Season 3. Sega Genesis, Game Gear, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy all got their own different versions of games based on the movie, loosely following the events of Season 2 and the film itself. None of them are ports of each other, so collect them all. Marvel Comics published 2 different books based on the film, a story adaptation and a photo comic book in September of 1995. Only 2 alternate covers on the regular comic version. It was 1995.
Well, that might be the end of my ride, really. Now we're just not getting anything. Now we're gonna crash again. Oh, no, we're going. Pretty sure that means, yeah, see, look at my thing here. I will not get a time at the top. I'm out of the race. Now let's just finish it off and see if I can guess. That sucks. If I have a monitor and just run it all off my Mac, I guess. Boo. But yeah, I won't get a time to the top since I restarted. Unfortunately, you can see that all my times on the other corners are gone now. So, same thing happened Wednesday. Boo. Oh well, looks like getting the elevation in the distance. See if I can set some PRs. These final corners, I guess. That's all I can do now. Guess that means I'm not getting stage 3 officially, because I'm off stage 3 now. I'll do it again someday. It doesn't matter much now, but let's give it last bit, see how we do. Actually wonder if I'm overheating the motor because it's pretty hot. It's a possibility. So I should try, see if this helps. There we go. I have a box fan behind me and I'm blowing at it now. Am I overheating the motor? That's interesting. Distinct possibility that I'm just overheating it. I'll look that up. It's a Tacx flow. That would suck. It's a trainer I can afford for now. So, Tacx flow. Whatever the cheapest smart Tacx is anyways. It's a possibility. I'm over the 60-minute mark now. You know, I have dropped 5 minutes to this trainer pausing. I only have it pause on uphill, so that's a distinct possibility. Final push. See if I can overheat it. That would be about 63 minutes. From the bottom, although I got cut out, so I wonder really if it's overheating the trainer. I've only ever had it happen on uphills. I hope this trainer would last me for a year, but I'm overheating it, that's not good. I've never turned that fan on regularly for it. Let's see if that helps. Just have to check to see if there's a makeup week for this. I think tomorrow's my last day and I'm going to go outside tomorrow. Try 100K or something. This sucked. I was like on a good pace. The last time it cut out like just before turn one, the last final turn. This time I cut it earlier, but I was going, I don't know, I was like averaging 2.7 to 3 last time. This time I was averaging 3 to 3.2, 3.4. So I wonder if it's literally just overheated. I'll look that up later. If you know, leave it in the comments. I guess I should put that in now. I'm keeping time codes. There we go, time code done. It'd be real interesting if I am overheating it. It's certainly a possibility. It's pretty hot. So we'll just have to see. I'll look that up online later. Are people overheating their Tacx? I think it's a Flow. Cheapest smart trainer right there. Do I really need to get a big one, a nice one? Which I'm not sure my wife will love, but I'm overheating it and it's not working. She'll see why, I guess. I'll wait a month or something. See if the fans help. Get more, like 4 fans for my trainer, more fans than I have. I have 2 fans right here. And I used to have that box fan pointed down at me, pointed up at me, but now it's pointed at the trainer. We'll see, I'll have to test that out. I'll have to climb me out this week again and see if I can overheat it. I don't know, it's interesting. For now, I'll just cool down. Felt good, didn't actually feel that hard. Definitely the legs are burning near the end, but it wasn't that bad. I'm gonna keep turning the pedals over to get the drops, but we're cooling down now. Keeping it easy. It's a bummer. Yeah, judging from a quick look on the forum, people are 3D printing fans for the side of this thing to cool it down. So this is not an unknown issue. I'm overheating the trainer. So for now, I keep that fan pointed at it and see how it goes on these hillier routes. And I really need to start saving for a new trainer. Maybe that's what I do with all the money I have from the bike shop. Go towards that. Because I don't need the money to live on. In fact, 17th today, or 18th today, I actually need to work the rest of the month if I don't feel like it. Which is nice to know. Because I earned enough money already for the month. I will work. I'll work next week still. But it's nice to know I don't have to work if I don't want to. Oh, we'll keep at this for probably to the bottom, just to cool down. Bummed about the trainer though. Could have used the feather on the way up. Why'd I have it on the way down? That's dumb. Oh well. So I did read that the Tacx app can do a diagnostic. Log in again. Sign in. Dumb. Let's connect. Great. I think I read quickly that there's a diagnostic. Skip. Okay. This text flow. It's not doing anything. Okay, it sees it. How do I find diagnostics? Settings, screen settings, weight. FTP is 281. Road field show opponents by. Trainer settings. We've done calibration before. Third here. Firmware update. Okay. It's all connected. My systems at go. So the people are Swifting. Okay. Safari. Diagnostics. What does it say here? Just looking at my phone. Select connect trainer. Select trainer when it's found. Done. Tacx trainer name. Sport. You're ready to train. So it looks like, because this is right there, is all systems are go. I can't tell if there's an issue with it. So I'm just guessing I'm overheating it, because I was doing what, 3.5 watts per kilogram for an hour? It's 3.2 watts per kilogram for an hour. So that's my best guess. Now we're gonna call it, I guess now, my last time code in to 10. Thanks for watching. If you watch, thanks for watching later. If you watch later, that's what I'm going to do with this training now. I'm just going to try it with a fan, which is probably the cheap one, definitely the cheapest way. Or if I'm going to buy a trainer, buy a better trainer that doesn't overheat. Have an excellent day. I'm going to do a little bit more work today and watch some bike races on GCN Plus.